Check. Ladies and gentlemen, please settle down. We'll start now.
Hello. Hello. I would request director, please come in. Sir.
No, sir, sir, आप please, 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 sir, come, sir, please come.
Okay. This is okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kamal Kumar Palit, Naval Architect, 1964 pass out from IIT Kharagpur. I am also a member of the Managing Council of INA, which is the Institution of Naval Architects. At the outset, I, on behalf of the Naval Architects of Kolkata, express my gratitude to Rear Admiral Amit Bose, Director of Indian Maritime University, Kolkata, for allowing us to hold this seminar in this conference hall. About 9 months back, the Naval Architects of Kolkata had organized a seminar at Tollygunge Club. Director, Indian Maritime University, was requested by us to come to that seminar. During some discussions with me at the lunch break, he understood that naval architects had to spend about 1 lakh of rupees for holding the seminar at Tollygunge Club. The money was received from 3 shipyards, that is AC Roy Shipyard, Garden Ridge Shipyard, and Cochin Shipyard. So, at the end of the seminar, when the group discussion was going on, Director IMU, he said that in case we hold the next seminar, we can hold in this hall and we need not have to pay anything. And for which we Naval Architects of Kolkata, we are very grateful to you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it was mentioned in our invitation card that 4 eminent persons will give their views on maritime industry of India. They are Commander Jai Kumar from KPMG. He is here with us. Commander Shantanu Bose from Garden Ridge Shipyard. He is also with us. Professor Dipankar Sinha from IIFT. He is also with us. And Professor Eswara, he is also here with us. Few days back, we understood that 2 young cadets from IMU have prepared a paper on why Atmanirbharata in India's shipbuilding requires indigenous marine engines. So this is the theme which is more or less similar to our theme on which we are presenting. The name of 2 young cadets are one Kush Rana. Where is he? Kush Rana and Priyanshu Rana. He is here. We have allowed them to present a paper, but due to time constraint, they will present their paper in a short time. At the lecture, at the end of first 2 lectures, there will be a short question answer session as Commanders Jai Kumar and Commanders Shantanu Bose have to go to Delhi to attend to Commander Garg Memorial lecture. However, at the end of the presentation, all other papers, including the paper of IMU cadets, will be discussed in the group, and any question and answers, any questions you would need, we have 4 eminent persons in the hall, those who will be answering your questions. Number 1 is Dr. M.K. Ghosroy. He is in the 1957 batch, that is the first batch of IIT Kharagpur. And he stood first. He is a very brilliant person. Dr. Ghosroy is there. He worked as manager of GRSC and was the chief ship designer of shipbuilding division of GRSC. He worked for 3 years as senior professor and head of the department of naval architecture at IIT Madras. After retirement, Dr. Ghosroy worked as the president of a company called Environment Filtration Company and authored many books. Probably he has got some of these books here. Now the second gentleman who will be discussing and giving you the question answers are Rear Admiral Amit Bose, Master of Engineering in Computer from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Role on INS Ganga and sensor systems. He served on aircraft carrier INS Virat for ensuring smooth operation of ships' electrical and electronics warfare systems. He was the principal director of electrical engineering in Ministry of Defense. He received Vishisht Seva Medal from President of India. And now he is the director of IMU Kolkata. Now the third gentleman is also equally prominent and eminent in the maritime history of India. He is Mr. Sabyasachi Hajra, graduate from Indian Institute, Kolkata, right in the front. He was general manager of Bulk Carrier and Tanker Division of Shipping Corporation of India. Then he became director of P&A of Shipping Corporation of India, and then he became the CMD of Shipping Corporation in India for almost 8 years. He was president of INSA, that is the Ship Owners Association of India, and he was director of L&T division from 1913 to 1918. And he was also a director of I 10 years. Now, eminent person who is Mr. H.V. Ramesh. Mr. Ramesh, where are you? Yes, he's sitting there. He's a naval architect from Visakhapatnam University, worked in Bharat shipyard from 1994 to 1958, 1998. Thereafter he joined Indian Register of Shipping during 1998. He is now the Chief Surveyor of Plan Approval Department of IRS. He is the Chairman of Bureau of Indian Standards dealing with marine engineering equipment, and he was awarded the Eminent Engineer from Institute of Engineers. Ladies and gentlemen, to end my talk, I will come to the most important point, which is to become the member of Institution of Naval Architects. As a member of INA, there are many benefits. I am requesting this for the people, those who are present here, ladies and gentlemen who are present here, that what are the advantages of being a member of Institution of Naval Architects. Institute of Naval Architects, we make member not only to marine engineers, not only to naval architects, but also to marine engineers. Both naval architects and marine engineers can become member of Institute of Naval Architects. The advantages are for professional development, career advancement, career mapping, access to technical publications and skill enhancement, opportunities to attend webinars and conferences, professional registration with chartered engineers. And the amount you have to pay, the student members, either they are naval architects or marine engineers, they have to pay just 100 rupees to become a student member. And thereafter, they can remain as the member of Institution of Naval Architects after paying maybe another 800 or 900 rupees. Those who are already working somewhere as naval architects or as marine engineers, they can become associate members just by paying 1,500 rupees. And if he wants to be a member, he has to pay 200 rupees. And if he wants to be a fellow, he has to pay 3,000 rupees. I think the best of all these categories is for the cadets of IMU. They can become the student member of Institution of Naval Architects just by paying 100 rupees. I have got here and I have kept in front about 100 application forms. Please fill them up, and thereafter you can fill the forms online. You can pay online, and then immediately and within about 7 days you will get your certificate, which will be sent to you on your email address. At the end, I would request Commander Bhaskar Gupta to take the podium and proceed further with our seminar. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. K. K. Palit, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we meet today once again for the second seminar in a very quick succession this year under the aegis of the INA. Uh, as Mr. Palit said, this seminar was possible only because of the generosity and the support that we have received from IMU and from Admiral Bose in particular, because he had very generously offered his facilities and this area for doing our professional seminars, get-togethers, where we can meet the larger community in this kind of a manner. So it is only fitting that I request Admiral Bose to come on stage and set the tone and tenor of today's seminar. Admiral Bose, please.
I thought I would get a sample speech from ChatGPT, but then that goes against the very tenet of Atmanirbharta. So I thought I have to write my own speech today, and I should not take any help from ChatGPT to at least agree with and comply with the requirements of Atmanirbharta. Honored dignitaries of the dais, Sri M.K. Ghosh Roy sir, Sri Palit sir, uh, dignitaries here, ladies and gentlemen, and few cadets who are here. Today's topic and today's seminar was, as has been mentioned twice before, is an opportunity. It is a win-win situation for everybody, particularly for the students here and the students at Vizag campus who are participating online, so that they get a direct insight onto what are the ground realities as far as the indigenous shipbuilding efforts and how we are aiming towards Atmanirbharta. Uh, as it is well known that Atmanirbharta and the call for self-reliance is something which is a strategic need in today's world, with the geopolitical situation being what it is. And the nation as such is taken a lot of initiatives towards furthering our ambitions in the maritime domain. With the integrated next week, I think scheduled at a better opportune moment than to the India Maritime Week 2025. But having said that, I thought I will highlight a few facts and few observations of mine. We all know that India has a rich maritime legacy. We were the leading shipbuilders, we were the leading maritime traders. Our goods, our ideas, our ideologies have been spread across the world in the million years ahead. But somewhere down the line, we lost out on that edge that we had in the maritime domain, and other things took priority for whatever reasons we all know. But now is the time that we have to catch up and be among the world leader in all activities which are maritime. The government's vision, whether it is Make in India, Sagarmala, the MIV 2030, the MAKV 2047, or even the green shipping initiatives, and we all know those details. And I'm sure these topics will get discussed during the course of today's deliberation. These are but a sort of a push, a catalyst for us. We are the ones who have to act on it. The designers, the shipbuilders, the industry, the academia, the future generation of the students who will become get into the maritime domain, for all of us to put in our efforts and ensure that what we have dreamt or what is our ambition translates into ground reality. It is not going to happen overnight, of course, that's true. But we have to, each one of us has to persevere and collectively pull in together, put our shoulders to the wheel and ensure that we are able to achieve our objective. Besides mere building of the hull, we need to talk about building of indigenous systems, because the shipping industry, shipping business is not only about the hull, but the machinery which goes with it. And it is just not the machinery, there is something called the entire system, whether it is the power system, the propulsion system integration, whether it is electronic system integration. We all need to look at that aspect of shipbuilding also. And this I'm telling you from our experience in the Indian Navy, where we required and we have built up our expertise in system integration. Any system, particularly where you have systems from different vendors come in and we need to integrate them, we must have somebody to do that job of integration. Otherwise, the ship owner or the shipbuilder will only play a role of an arbitrator between two agencies who don't see eye to eye and trying to pass on the blame to somebody else. So I think this one area where we need to give additional thrust besides shipbuilding is the systems engineering. For the young generation, I think this is an opportunity for you all to innovate, to think outside the box, and come out with solutions which are implementable on the field. There's no point in doing research which does not translate into ground realities. What is required is, and as I was talking to Ishwara sir just some time back, research and innovation need to go hand in hand. They need to be meshed together. If research is pulling in one direction and the industry's demand is in the other direction, we will not see the ends meet. So without much ado, I would like to wish the organizers a very successful session in ensuring that we have a detailed deliberation on the topic of Atmanirbhar in shipbuilding industry. I wish each one of you a successful and meaningful interaction. Please use the facilities that we have, though it is not world class, but what we have is what we have, though we are trying to improve. Thank you once again for agreeing to hold this seminar here. I think Dr. Palit sir and Bhaskar for agreeing to come into this campus and hold this seminar here. Thank you once again. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Admiral sir. Uh, the first speaker of the day is Commander Shantanu Bose, Director Shipbuilding in GRSC. Commander Bose is an alumnus of Cochin University and IIT Delhi Naval Architecture. I dare say my association with Director Shipbuilding has been, say, my personal has been almost close to 4 decades. Commander Bose has had a very varied exposure and a checkered career in all aspects of our profession. Uh, when in the Navy, he did ship repairs in dockyards and naval ship repair yards. Uh, Construction, he was in the warship overseeing team over here in Calcutta and Directorate of Naval Design. Then he headed INS Vishwakarma in its previous avatar as Shipwright School. And then after he hung his boots, he joined GRSE as a DGM and has now risen to the board. He has helmed Project 17 Alpha project right from almost concept to delivery. The first ship has been delivered from GRSE. Therefore, who else is more qualified to tell us about, Atmanirbharta in shipbuilding, in the travels that he has gone through delivering these ships? We are very thankful to Director Shipbuilding to have taken out this time from his busy schedule. In fact, immediately after the talk, very shortly, he will off to Delhi for another very important, seminar. And we will, before he leaves, we will have a short break for his question answer sessions for which you may have. So we will have that. And so without any further ado, I request Commander Shantanu Bose to please take the stage and let us listen to him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Uh, it's an honor and privilege to be standing before an august audience such as yours and also the bright young minds at the back. Uh, my talk is about, as it says, Atmanirbhar in shipbuilding, and it is more of graphics and little bit of tricks which will help keep the young people awake from sleeping. Uh, yeah. So I'll just cover the presentation in following heads. That is GRC at a glance. I have to talk about my company. ऐसा नहीं मिलेगा नहीं तो. Why Atmanirbharta? What is required for Atmanirbharta and how to make Atmanirbharta happen? And we have an adage: look back, march forward. I'll come to that when we reach that heading. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is we are a warship builder, Schedule A company. 1960 it was taken over. We've got a series of firsts in our things, and we are the only shipyard to have delivered a century of warships to the government. Next slide. This is a pictorial view which tells us about the 6 units of GRC. It is actually missing out 1 unit, which we have 3 shipbuilding yards which are there on the top. And there is a ship repair yard which we have acquired from Calcutta Port, which is located in the Khidarpur Basin. And these are the support units which we have also making deck machinery, Ranchi and Badanagar. Next one. And then as on date, this is our track record of building. We are also in the process of building export ships, and I'll come to that when we talk about. Next. This is a snapshot of the various projects which we are doing. And these are some of the export ships which we are making. We've got an order for 12 of these ships from a German owner. This is one for Bangladesh, and we have delivered in the past this one to Guyana, and also this one to Mauritius, and another ship to Seychelles, and some others are there also. So why Atmanirbharta? I'll just come to the meat of it. Uh, it is being talked about in many forums. The Indian fleet is only 1.2%. We have an annual freight bill of 75 billion as of 2022, and it is expected to keep growing. So, in effect, all of us are paying the foreign ship owners for carrying the goods and which are coming in, which we are importing. So, can you just go back? Yeah. So, of course, as Admiral Bose brought out, there are strategic advantages, and more often than not, the goods which are particularly plying, the ships which are particularly plying in Indian waters. We've had recent instances of two ships having damages and damaging of the coast of Cochin and Kerala. So, if because the old ships are carrying our cargo, obviously the cheapest ones are coming, and they are damaging us. So, improvement in quality of tonnage, and our interest is that our share in shipbuilding is only 0.06, which is actually quite pathetic. One major thing which I've highlighted in the bottom at the red is we are a young country. We need a lot of employment. And shipbuilding, as per a proven fact, generates the highest multiplier factor, that is of 6.8. So for every one person who is working in a shipyard, there are 6.8 or almost 7 people who are getting jobs in ancillary industry, in seafaring, in banking, insurance, so on and so forth. So it is one of the highest factors which is generating employment. Next. Now, what is required for Atmanirbharta? I will keep coming back to this slide, and this, as per my understanding, is the 6 spokes of what is required for Atmanirbharta. First and foremost is human resources, of course, the shipyards. We keep missing this guy. He is the most important person, the buyer. We can keep making ships, but if there is no buyer, there is nothing we can need to do. Funding, policy, and equipment makers, which I'm happy to note that some of the cadets are presenting a paper on a very relevant point of the need for indigenous engines. So these are the various 6 spokes of what is required for Atmanirbharta. This is my appreciation of it. Please, next slide. So just go back. So I'm just covering human resources. Next. Now, India, I was just speaking to the director, there are 1,200 cadets in this institute itself. And annually, India is every year churning out 1.5 million engineers. Regrettably, the industry, as per their assessment, indicates only 45% are there with job-ready skills. And only 10% of them actually get jobs. That is the campus placements. Of course, IMU is a premier institute, and I'm sure there is 100% placement here. But there are many other grades of colleges and institutes where placement is an issue. Can you just go back? Go back. Yeah. Now, there is a need. What is the required? So there is a need for internships, OJTs, improvements and adaptations of the academic institutions with the industry, so that these 45% of the people rise to 100%, and this figure of 10% increases dramatically for us to get the requisite human resources into the industry who are there. This is basically a bottleneck for us to attract, because there is an input resource and the output is not suitable for the industry, and it is a requirement for both the industry and the academia to tackle this. This is basically a bottleneck which we need to overcome to ensure that there is adequate resource coming into the industry. For the premier academic institutions, there is amongst the young people, and there is nothing wrong in it, they will obviously gravitate towards the fields which are more lucrative in terms of money, which have more sort of, the razzmatazz associated with it. And so nowadays, there is an overbearing focus amongst the young people in outstanding institutions towards software, IT, AI. So what is there in this? How do we overcome? What is the lesson in this for the industry? For the industry is, when we perceive a heavy engineering industry like the shipbuilding industry, it is perceived as something where you have to stand 12 hours a day, work in most difficult conditions inside an engine room and things like that. I- And we need to look at how we can improve the working environment in the shipyard. It is easier said than done, but this is an important factor. Now I'm moving to the workmen. Now, traditionally, the eastern states of UP, Bihar, Orissa, and West Bengal make up the bulk of the workforce in any labor intensive industry anywhere in India and also in Middle East. So, and if we go to Europe and all, you will find that while we have been in Fincantery, I have found Bangladeshi workmen there also. So they, this is a kind of a labor surplus area, but this labor surplus area of late in the last 4 to 5 years, even before the COVID set in, is facing a challenge. This challenge comes from Manrega, the National Rural Employment Guarantee Assurance Scheme, and various subsidy schemes. There is a scheme in Orissa where every farmer is given some 10 kgs of rice. So there is a reluctance amongst the people to come and work in heavy industries, heavy engineering. There is also, there might be, we all go to the malls. You see one security guard standing, he's getting around 25 to 30,000 rupees for standing in an AC environment. Why should he come to a shipyard, work in a very difficult environment and in a dangerous environment at times to do that? The next point is, there are, despite the fact of us having a large number of ITIs and other institutions, you will very rarely find a ITI trained person working as a workman in a shipyard. There is, again, there is a pool of labor available, but we are not training that labor in a way where we are able to adapt them. The same thing, if in Europe, there is nobody who is allowed inside the shipyard without formal training as a workman. Now, this is something, again, we need to look at. There are various apprentices schemes which are run by the shipyards, which are mandated under the Apprentice Act, but these are far and few. And this is, again, something which we need to look. And the skilling, Skill Up India, Skilling India, these are the correct government initiatives towards this. Next slide, please. Next is the infrastructure. I think I don't need to, next slide. I don't need to focus on, give you the background reasons. If we are looking, which will come in subsequent slides, but if we are looking at high demand aggregations of 200 plus ships, there will be an enhanced requirement of ship landing slots in dry dock, slippage, ship lifts, increased craneage, material handling, and the present some 10 odd shipyards in India will not be able to manage the kind of demand which is required to build up from that 0.06% of shipbuilding share in the shipbuilding market into foreseeable things. The government has identified this as the need for greenfield shipyards. They have said that there will be a need for 3 greenfield or shipyard clusters, and also a need for brownfield shipyards. There are a large number of shipyards which are in some kind of, they are making ships or barges with on some kind of things, but they are not completely modernized or this thing developed. So we need to develop those brownfield shipyards, and they have allocated funds for the same. Next. As I was telling, the need is for to find a buyer. This is the most important man in the circuit. Next. Now, I'm just giving an example of where all in the world the GRSE ships have been gone. This is just a pictorial. Our sister shipyards, whether Cochin shipyard has been making for Norway and the European market, and even their sister Udupi Cochin shipyard or Chogle shipyard, Mazagon dock is making for Netherlands owner. So there are a lot of ships being already built in India for the foreign owners. However, there are very few ships being built in India, commercial ships for Indian owners. Now this is a challenge. That next. Now this is just a thought on the demand from the world. You've seen, and a previous slide I brought out, that there are all the 4 shipyards are building ships from the world. Now this is just a recent thing on a news item about US tariffs on Chinese things. What I'm trying to say is there are opportunities like this available, but nobody is going to come and place an order on any shipyard, whether he's an Indian or from foreigner, until and unless it is to be cheaper and better than the others. This is something which we have to understand. There we can, Admiral Bose brought out, and Mr. Palit was also saying, that we can all write good papers and do research praises, but it has to be better and cheaper than anywhere else. Nobody is going to come to place an order on India or anywhere in the world unless it's cheaper and better. The moment you make it cheaper and better, you will have people lining up at your doors. And this is a personal experience from having done business development in Europe by meeting owners, meeting ship brokers, and interacting with a large plethora of people across the traditional buyers of ships. And this is something nobody will tell you, but it is clearly a writing on the wall. This is my underlying reason. And that is why, though the buyer doesn't figure in many of the other cycles, but for me, the buyer is the most important person. Next. Okay. So as I said, all the 4 shipyards who are making 4 or 5 shipyards who are making ships for other countries, none of them are making commercial ships for Indian clients. So this has been noted at the right forum, and there is a sector-wise demand. What is there is these are the various projections and opportunities which were indicated as of which I think Jayakumar will be covering on the inputs, which are the reasons behind the recent slew of initiatives by the government of India, which are these. These are the innate things. So they are looking at 8 mega maritime clusters, 2 dedicated parks to meet the rising demands. Sector-wise demands, the oil and gas, there are a various list of ship requirements which are projected and consolidated by the Ministry of Shipping, and there is a series of discussions which are underway on telling the buyers, primarily the private public sector buyers, that you have to build in India. Next. This is the tabulation of the various types of, it is available in the domain, and it has been compiled by taking the public sector demand from the government by the Ministry of Shipping. And this is the figure of 112 ships across these major oil marketing companies, that these are the kind of ships which they will require. There are additional requirements from fertilizers, public sector companies, and that then leads up, and also Shipping Corporation and ONGC. The number is aggregated to 144. Yeah, more or less it is that. Jayakumar is more current on the numbers. All right. So these are the tabulation. So what is this bringing out is that this is the infrastructure. Now, if we are having to build VLCCs, VLGCs, Aframax, Suezmax, at present only Swan, which has not yet got any order for after its rejuvenation, and Cochin Shipyard for a certain sector. None of the other shipyards have the capacity to build any of these ships. So there is the writing is on the wall for need for infrastructure. Next. Now, obviously, we have talked about human resources. We have talked about the buyer. We have also talked about the infrastructure. But there is a need for funding. Now, why is funding required? We will come to that. Next one. Now, anybody following as a professional the reports in the media will know that there have been a slew of announcements by my sister shipyards. Mazagon Docks has announced that, and Cochin Shipyard, that they will be going in for greenfield shipyards. Mazagon Docks is also entered into something in Sri Lanka with the Colombo Dry Docks Limited, and Cochin Shipyard is actively looking at Tuticorin based a shipyard near Tuticorin. But for any shipyard to fund this kind of things, this is the snapshot from the board reports of what is their reserves. Now, any business is based on cash and reserves. If I have a reserve of about 2,000 crores or Cochin Shipyard has 5,000 crores, he will not be able to get any loan which is more than this amount. So there is a viability gap fund which is there for a 15,000 crore greenfield shipyard which needs to be built to make a VLCC. Where is the money coming from? The shipyards obviously don't have that kind of money in their reserves. That is just a financial fact. There is no chest thumping or anything there. This is the financial fact. Next. So why is shipbuilding is a capital intensive industry, and financial aids for domestic building is in the range of around 14 to 30%. Small cargo ships, the cargo ships which we are building of around 10,000 to 12,000 DWTs have typically range in around of 100 crores. LNG container ships on order, 8 of them from on Cochin Shipyard. There was a lot of news that CMA has placed an order for 8 LNG ships. These LNG ships, the order value is for 8 of them is 2,000 crores. Now the working capital requirement is around 35 to 40% of this. Hence, there is a need for any shipyard to have that amount of cash reserve with him to ensure that he is able to build these ships. The owners will give advance, but nobody will give you advance for more than 10% on a contract signing or maximum 20%, that too against a bank guarantee. How do you get a bank guarantee? You get a bank guarantee by putting the same amount of money into the bank and the bank stands guarantee. So in effect, it's a no-go. If you're giving a bank guarantee and getting advance, it's really not really this thing. If you are not giving a bank guarantee, you can use that amount of money for your working capital. What is the financing rate of India? It is 10 to 12%. Everybody knows this. And financing rate in China is abysmally low, and in East Asia is around this. So because of this, there is the government initiative, SBFA 1 was launched, which is now being upgraded to SBFA 2, wherein around 10 to 15 to 20% of the subsidy is given after the ship is delivered. Now believe this, after the ship is delivered. So there is no, it doesn't aid, it aids in the costing of the ship. It does not aid in the working capital. Okay, this is a fact. Next. So I've covered funding. So Now, what is required for Atmanirbhar? There has been a large number of measures which have been announced by the government, and Jaikumar would be covering it. I am not going to go into Jaikumar's field uh, because that's what he's going to talk about. But I'll just take because this for all the spokes in the wheel to be completed. I'll just take 2 slides on this, so just to highlight it. Next one. This is a graphic from the Press Information Bureau release of 12th of October. Okay, that's only 2 weeks ago. This was released by the PIB on their website. I've just taken, and the source is Ministry of Shipping. So the government has announced that there will be in shipbuilding the future. This is not my slide. This is the PIB slide. That there will be pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3, pillar 4, where there is SBFA. The government is allocating 24,000 crores under various components. There is a maritime development fund, again under various heads. I'll leave all this to Jaikumar. I'm just looking at 2 points. That is the component 1 of pillar 1 under the SBFA and the shipbuilding development scheme, which is the pillar 3. Next slide, please. So here, this provides financial support to India to bridge the cost disadvantages, and these are 15, 20, and 25%. It comes with a rider that 30% domestic value addition, and fund allocation is 20,000 crores with a sunset clause at March 36. So that means around 11 years from now, or basically 2 shipbuilding cycles it will cover. So this is what the shipbuilding financial assistance. That means the cost of the vessel will be under subsidized by the government by the extent of an average of 20%. If it's a green vessel, 25%. And if it has to be above. So the government's thrust here is you have to build bigger ships. Okay, it has to cost more than 100 crores. As I said, the ships which we are having order from, that is Garden Reach or MDL, they are all in the range of 100 to 120 crores. So the government is pushing us correctly on to bigger ships which are there. Next. Now, this is important. Again, the third pillar, that shipbuilding development scheme. This is what I was mentioning in the beginning, that the amount of cash reserves which are there with the various shipyards, and how much does it cost for a greenfield shipyard to be built, and what is the amount of fund which would be required to build or upgrade a brownfield shipyard. Now the brownfield capacity expansion outlay is 8,261, and a greenfield cluster, which is going to be 2 or 3 clusters. The exact numbers are not yet out, and which areas are those, they have also not been announced. Maybe they will be announced very shortly, possibly in the MIV. So the allocation is 9,900, around 10,000 crores. So that means, yes, there is fund on the table, and it's a very good initiative from the government, the right step. However, it will still need a lot of funding to come in from others, stakeholders. This is a key takeaway for all of us to internalize, that there is fund on the table which the government is putting. However, there will be need for all stakeholders to have skin in the game, which is an important factor, because without skin in the game, can be nothing which will happen. Next, please. Last and one of the most important things in the spoke is equipment and ancillary support. Shipbuilding is an aggregation industry. Admiral Bose was saying it's not only the hull. Completely agree with you, sir. It is not the hull. Hull is the easiest part. Being a naval architect is the easiest part to design and make. But what goes into the ship is that makes the ship run, tick, and excel. So, next one, please. So, I'm just, this is I mean, since we are all very experienced people, we know that these are the various things which go into the entire gamut of shipbuilding. My old professor, German professor in the ship uh, in Cochin University, used to tell us something that I'm just sharing with the young ones because it might strike a chord somewhere. He used to say that the ship has everything which a city has. The ship has everything which a city has. The only thing the ship doesn't have is the graveyard. And the sea will be your graveyard for the seamen in the ship if you don't design it well. So everything which you find in a city is there on a ship. So obviously all the equipment, whether it is ventilation, power generation, or cables, pipes, everything, paints, you will find it in the ship. So it's a very nice way of putting it. So all basically everything is there. Now, these are certain things which I have highlighted. Machinery and propulsion. This is something which we don't make in India. There have been a lot of efforts, with GRC included. We have a diesel engine plant. We had a collaboration for a long time. However, not yet. We are not making a complete engine ourselves. A lot of collaborations are there. Now, further steps are being taken in the right direction for doing this. But not having an Indian marine engine is pinching us and will continue to pinch us in the future. Second is we are all dependent on Aviva or Cadmatic or things like that. This is if we are good designers and we are the best software engineers in the world, as everybody is proud of, we need a ship design software, which is very important. And we also need navigation and controls, radar and so on and so forth. These are again important components which are required for a ship and would be better if it is indigenous. Next slide. This is just a listing of equipment and it covers the entire gamut of everything which is there on a ship. Basically, the point of listing it out is that there is a lot of opportunity for the ancillary industry and the industry to get on to making various things which are available or required. Next. Services. These are the services which are there and which are traditionally the top ones are the traditionally services which are outsourced by any shipyard. The last one is an emerging one. Many of the new build ships will need cybersecurity, safety on the cloud-based systems which are going to be there on the ship. Next. Okay, how to make Atmanirbhar happen? This is the most important thing. We have Atmanirbhar as the vision, a need. We have the government egging us on, and we need to improve as a group of professionals. How do we make it happen? Why I have put look back, march forward is that we have an extremely successful warship design in India. It has grown. The ships which the Indian Navy is getting or the Indian Coast Guard is getting, it is not that I am Director Shipbuilding of GRSE and I am saying this. It is an acknowledged fact by foreign navies also that most of the ships which we are building here are world class. And it is another matter that we are exporting the lower end of the spectrum as OPVs or things like that. And other navies are also constrained to build nationally defense ships. But our ships are at the best, if not the very best, but at least it's there in this. So there are a lot of learnings in the defense shipbuilding as how Atmanirbharta happened there. And it wasn't so. 20 years back, many ships were being coming from Russia or we were from other places. We even bought a ship from USA, Jalashwa, and so on and so forth. Next one. So this is what I was highlighting. These are all cutting edge platforms which we have done. and all of them have 90% or more indigenization. Next. Now, this is comes with a rider as to the need of on the commercial shipbuilding. While the defense, the most successful shipyards in India presently are building for the defense. And they are successful because they are building for the defense. The defense market is going to grow. There are 54 ships on order. Present order value is 99,500 crores. That is the order value. I don't see in the foreseeable future this amount of order value coming in from commercial shipbuilding. And the projections for growth are 200 ships. Media reports are there that there is going to be 1.9 trillion INR is the spending which will be there, committed spending by the government of India over the next 3-5 years. So that is the amount of spending which is going to continue to increase in the defense shipbuilding realm. So the defense shipyards will find it more and more profitable. Even the commercial shipyards, like L&T Kattupalli was built as a commercial shipyard. He is finding it more beneficial to build defense ships, even otherwise, directly or otherwise, than commercial ships. Because of this, this is a big challenge which has to be overcome. This is a big challenge which has to be overcome, and the input industry, whether it is steel, cable, pipes, or equipments, are the same. The input manpower is the same. So obviously, it will gravitate towards where there is more money. So commercial shipbuilding will always find a challenge here. Next. Now, coming back to what the Navy did was it categorized the various naval equipment. It categorized them as to what is important to float, what is important to move, what is important to fight. And it gave targets of indigenization. Okay. This is how indigenization in warship was achieved. And it stated, in order to aggregate that whether that there are not too many people fighting over the same pie, they aggregated and they nominated vendors. So they said the most important equipment we will nominate. And they said you will go to Bharat Electronics for weapons and sensors. Believe it, it worked. I mean, many people may say anything about Bharat Electronics. I believe Bharat Electronics is a shining story of how indigenization of weapons and sensors is done. Because there was one man and he was held accountable. I have attended meeting Admiral Bose has attended, where Bharat Electronics was, taken over coals for not meeting targets. So that amount of, when you are holding one single entity and making him accountable, there will be performance will come. Sooner or later it will come. And that's what happened. Class B, they said, okay, these are not so critical, but you can go to a limited number of vendors. We will tell who are the vendors and there. And class C, the shipyards were left free to procure. Now, this is the roadmap which was followed by the Navy in indigenization of equipment. And it has been quite successful, very successful. Next slide. And this is actual facts. This is the amount of procurement which we do from MSMEs. These figures point out that we are procuring more than 60%, and last year, last fiscal, we touched around 73% from the MSMEs. Now, this is what everybody wants. Everybody wants means a broad basing. MSMEs means there is a broad basing of the industry amongst every larger number of people. These are family-owned businesses. They are listed companies, whatever it is. But they are generating employment. They are generating the national turnover and GDP. This is what is important. And the fact they are MSMEs means 99.95% they are Indian owned. They are not foreign owned. So the money is going into India. Next slide. There have been a series of schemes. This is like government market. When it came 4-5 years back, for me it was a pain. But nowadays it is something which is like Amazon for the government industry. It is working. There are hiccups. There have been initial hiccups, but it works. Next. There are portals which are there, which are promoting Srijan and other things, which are promoting the MSMEs and ensuring. These are all cogs in the wheel which are leading to procurement broad basing, generating a larger number of vendors, ensuring this thing, and ensuring cross pollination from the high tech intent of the Indian defense system into other things. So there are people who were making walls in the 60s, 70s, who learned how to make walls and who are now exporting walls. And we don't have to look very far. Right here in the SEZ here, Falta, there are world-class wall-making companies who are exporting. Now the thing has turned. They don't want to come to Indian defense, but they are exporting. Coimbatore is full of such examples where there are large, high-quality machining and wall-making or component-making industries who are making for NASA, NATO, and elsewhere. But now we have also, it's a lesson for us to not become too bureaucratic so that the people continue to be feeding us. Next. This is, without naming the project, this is a project which we are executing now. We had done an import content. This, I would request it is not posted on the social media. I can see some people taking snaps. Okay. So, so this is giving you I have removed the weapon systems here, but the weapon systems are by and large indigenous. So the input components works out only 5.2%. And that too indicated that these can be this thing like incinerator. There is an indigenous option available. So these are things. So these are things which are there. So this is giving you a snapshot that this is the amount of indigenization which is possible, which is not only possible, it is happening. Next. So what are the major takeaways from worship building which we should harness into commercial shipbuilding if we have to make Atmanirbhar Bharat commercial ships? Navy and the Coast Guard have supported the industry to a very large extent by giving advances and stage payments throughout, so that the need for working capital comes down drastically. This is an important thing. There has been initial stages, a lot of handholding in design, and it continues by the Warship Design Bureau and the advice coming in from the various professional directorates in the Navy. The shipyards may find it intrusive or otherwise, but it is an important contribution which comes from the customer perspective into the ship design early. Policy interventions. There have been many policy interventions which have facilitated warship design. There have been many revisions of the defense procurement procedures and now which is called the defense acquisition procedure. All these have led to improvements and facilitation for the industry to enable realization of indigenization in defense. Why I'm saying is that this we need. And equipment indigenization, which I just covered, that there have been sustained efforts to nurture India. The biggest of them, that there was a driving national objective. There was a danda. You have to make it happen. We will not buy from outside. Once that thing comes, that we will not make it happen, we will not buy from now, that is the only way it can happen. Next. So we have covered, in the policy steps, there is, in the recent government initiatives, there is capex in, there is a talk of developing design agencies who will be there, policy interventions, and the national objective is the most important thing, which is the will to make it happen. That is the most important thing. Next. I have finished, sirs.
Director Shipbuilding will have to leave now for another assignment. We can have a short question and answer break. We will take, we'll just limit it to 2 or 3. If anybody has any questions, you can ask it right now.
Huh? No, no. Bulun? No, there is a skill development. The nationwide, if you ask me, the nationwide scheme is the Apprentices Act, which is applicable to all large industries, that they have to take in apprentices and provide them apprenticeships. That's the nationwide, which is an existing forum. In addition, recently IRS has furthered an organization which is called SEMS, and Garden Reach has given an area where the local youth are being provided training for shipbuilding related skills. Many of the shipyards have this. We also have in this I will not be able to talk about others in so much detail, but I know for us, we have a scheme of graduate trainee apprentices, and where graduate engineers are taken, and apprentices. And in order to, we have done an assessment internally as to the need to improve the scheme, and we found that if there is some amount of employment assurance provided at the end of the training, then there is more fire in the belly for the trainees. So that we have done that, and we are now inducting some, I think 10% or 15% of the trainees as for term-based employment in our company.
Hello. Sir, I have, you have just mentioned that the defense shipbuilding is doing very well in the country. As compared to that, commercial shipbuilding is literally non-existent at the moment. So I think this has got something to do with the buyers, assurance of having buyers, isn't it? Whereas defense has got assured buyers, because today if India decides to have self-reliance in defense ships, we already have ready-made buyers. Whereas commercial shipbuilding, there is a lot of ifs and buts involved. So no commercial owner would like to, order a ship before thinking 10 times. He will look at the pros and cons and ROI and all that. So how do we tide over that challenge for growth of commercial shipbuilding in the country?
Sir, in fact, that's why I had put the buyer. There are only 5 pillars, but I had intentionally put the buyer. As I said during my talk, you have to make it cheaper and better. That's the simple mantra. And this comes, but even though you said that the buyer will have to think 10 times before coming here, what I find disheartening is I keep getting inquiries from European or even Middle East buyers. But we don't get any inquiries from Indian buyers. We get, that's why the national will is not there. The same ships which we are building are flying in India. When I say we, I mean the ships on export, which Mazagon Docks is making or Cochin Shipyard is making, Cochin Shipyard, Udupi Cochin Shipyard or Chogle Shipyard, they are almost in the same range. between 7,000 to 15,000 on an average. Cochin Shipyard has done extremely well. They have also done it for all vessels. So requirement there in India, but the, we do not have the national objective to build in India. It is cheaper for any service provider to buy second-hand ships from anywhere in the world, not flag it in India, flag it in a third world or a flag of convenience, and run it in India. Yes, that is what Jaikumar is going to be covering. So I think I will direct the question to Jaikumar when he can. Yeah. Yes. Sir. Have the equipment, have control over the supply chain. Single biggest thing. Yeah, yeah. You have to have complete control over the supply chain. And scale of operations, correct. Scale of operations. No, modular construction, ये वो robotic, ये वो सब आ जाएगा. If you, there is nobody is going to invest in robotics, and if your engine is, if you order an engine today and it is going to come after 24 months, there is no point of investing in robotics and things like that. In my experience, the single most important thing is to have complete control over your supply chain. Mostly it is the main engines, gearboxes, and those are, yeah, basically, yes, sir. So, balloon. Sorry, sir.
For commercial shipbuilding.
Sir, it all depends. Here, in worship building, as somebody said, my friend from IRS said, there is a single buyer. So and I also gave the example of Bharat Electronics, when he's very sure that he will buy only from Bharat Electronics. The customer is one. In effect, it's a single customer. So in commercial shipbuilding, there are multiple customers. We have had experiences where one buyer wants a Volvo Ponta engine, another one wants an ABC engine, and somebody wants a Cummins engine. So obviously, it is buyer-centric. The buyer has got the way he manages his fleet. He's maintaining us spares or the service support for Volvo Penta. Some other buyer does not want to have American engines, and he's got poor opinion of Cummins, whatever may be the case. So it is the moment we cannot have control over the buyer. If you go to China, I'm sure many of us have worked, some of us must have worked in China and things like that. When you go to buy a ship in China, you are given a ship which is almost half ready or 3/4 ready, and say, okay, this is the ship, take it, I will deliver it in 6 months. There the engine, pumps, etc. are all fitted. That is, earlier it used to be European licensed Chinese products. Now increasingly they are Chinese products only, which are there. Now that is the Hobson's choice. Means we say that we are going to only make ships which are going to have this kind of engines. But then very soon we will not get buyers for them. So we have to reach that stage till we can do what the Chinese are doing now, that is dictating.
We are now running out of time. DS has to go. May I request Mr. K.K. Palil to... On behalf of
Thank you, sir. Max, can you open, sir?
Thank you, Commander Bose, for a very invigorating talk. I think it had a lot of questions were there. People would have liked to ask, but since he has to go, you can post your questions to us, and we will get your answers to them during the panel discussion and uh, the next day. The next speaker is Commander R. Jayakumar. Commander Jayakumar is an alumnus of Cochin University. The officer had a eventful career in the Indian Navy. In fact, the P-17 Alpha projects which you're talking about, he was the guy behind the scenes working, and he was a go-to man for a very, very long time to thereafter. He finished 20 years, and then he hung his boots and joined KPMG. I think his most significant contribution to the shipbuilding fraternity happened in this innings of his career. The Maritime Amritkal Vision 2047 that we see now is largely with the Ministry of Ports and Shipping, is largely his team's creation. And this magnificent document covers comprehensively all aspects of the maritime firmament that we know today. So all this has been done by him and his team. And in fact, he has taken his time out of his very busy schedule. He has come in the morning. He will again deliver his talk, and he will then rush back to Delhi immediately after that. So who better to tell us about the contours of the maritime vision than Commander Jayakumar? So without any further ado, I would request Commander Jayakumar and come and deliver the speech. Welcome. Thank you.
uh, uh, the eminent veterans of the shipbuilding industry are present here. Uh, the Institute of Naval Architects, Kolkata chapter, particularly Sir K.K. Palit sir and Commander Sen Gupta, Commander Bhaskar Sen Gupta. My dear good friends, a lot of youngsters are sitting here. First of all, I'd like to thank INA for giving me this opportunity to deliver a lecture here as part of the INA lecture series. A lot of good friends, both sir and I go back a long way. There is a lot of talk of indigenization. When he was in DWE and we were trying to do a lot of stuff of how we can get a lot of things done in India. There is always this reluctance. There is always this thought process that it's something that is already reliable. Why don't we just follow it? But people like Admiral Bose have taken that initiative. There is a lot of things that can be done, even in the so-called non-indigenous space in the electrical and electronics, and that's where the journey started. And I was very fortunate that having spent a lot of time being part of the indigenous journey in the Navy, I got an opportunity to work in the industry in consulting, and as part of the KPMG advisory team, which specializes in aerospace, defense, shipbuilding, and space. We've been doing a lot of work with the indigenous industry, and one of the opportunities was to work with the ministry to evolve policy that is going to be very specifically addressing whatever we are talking about today, which is Atmanirbhar in the shipbuilding industry. So I was very lucky to be a part of that exercise, advising the ministry on a daily basis to evolve this policy. So I'm going to be talking about the specific aspects of the policy. Some of it Commander Bose sir covered. I try and highlight a little bit more in terms of what is specifically coming and some of the pain points that he very rightly brought out. How the ministry has tried to specifically address those pain points is what I would like to talk about today. I have a presentation. I shared it with presentation more, please. Yeah. Oh, thank you. So I'd briefly cover the policy measures. Some of it was already covered, so I'd not like to repeat it, but I'd quickly go through them in any case. Next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah, so this was covered. So, I mean, this graphic tells you where we are and where China, Japan, and Korea are, and where even some of the other countries are. So, if you are looking, we're currently at 17th in the world, 0.06% of the global share comes from Indian shipbuilding. We are doing about 0.5 million GT per annum is the output. At best, even if you put all the capacity together, most of which is going towards defensive building, you would at best reach about 0.5, 0.6 million GT, which will get you somewhere close to the top 10. We're nowhere close. That's the current picture. A lot of people have talked about it. Next. But if you look at the Amritkal vision, where do we want to be? We are currently 16th. We want to be the top 10. If you want to be the top 10 in ship ownership, a lot of talk was done about the ownership aspect. If your shipbuilding industry has to thrive, you have to have a much significant presence in the ownership also. And I'll give you some numbers which are not listed here. Only 5% of 4.5% of our cargo is carried on Indian owned ships. 95% of your cargo is being carried by someone else. So tomorrow, if you have a strategically difficult situation, somebody decides to say that, okay, country is flagged, I have a problem with India, I will not let my ships carry cargo for India. So you have a problem in energy security, you have a problem in manufacturing, you have a problem in just about every element of your economy. When you have a situation where 95% of your cargo is being carried by someone else. So the first thrust is to have a much higher level of ownership in terms of carrying our own cargo. And if you're going to be carrying your own cargo with your own ships, it makes even more sense that most of those ships are built in India. So that is why the second aspect of that is to improve your shipbuilding ranking. It means I will own a large part of my ships, and a significant part of the ships I'll build myself. Currently we are 17. If you want to get to the top 10, you are looking at an output of 0.6 million GT per annum to get ahead of some of the European countries. And if you want to be in the top 5, you are going to be producing something close to 4.5 million GT per annum to be able to get into the top 5, which is the target in 2047. You are currently carrying about 2,000 odd million metric tons per annum. Our EXIM cargo is about 1,300. And if you're talking of a 40 trillion economy, it's not going to be based on service sector. It is going to be based on manufacturing. And if it's going to be based on manufacturing, you're looking at a lot of input production material has to come in. Your produced goods have to be exported. So your EXIM cargo, which is roughly around 1,300 million tons per annum, will go to somewhere close to 5,700 million tons per annum by 2047. So to carry that, so you imagine in 1,300 million, you are carrying 5% of it. So if you don't do anything and the denominator goes to 5,700 million, you practically have zero control over your cargo, which is why the other aspects in terms of cargo handling, etc., are also being augmented significantly. And it's not just about EXIM cargo. There is a significant amount of internal transit that happens. There is a paper that KPMG has published about a few years ago. If you take out the first and last mile connectivity part, the cheapest and the most efficient way of carrying cargo is coastal and inland shipping. Much better than rail, much better than road. But because of this first mile, last mile connectivity problem, we have not really gotten invested into that. So that's another focus area, which means you can have a factory which is manufacturing stuff in Tamil Nadu, but the input material may be coming from Maharashtra or Orissa. If you don't have to depend on the road networks, you can do it on coastal networks or inland waterways. So that's another focus area where the Amritkal vision is really focused a lot on. Next, please. But why is it required? Everybody will say, oh, yeah, great, yeah, but why should we own our ships? What's wrong? I told you strategically it's a problem. He said, okay, strategically we will own more ships, but why do we have to build it in India? We can always build it somewhere else. The forex going out is the least of your concerns. There are much bigger things that happen because of shipbuilding. If you look at Japan or Korea, which became shipbuilding powerhouses, Hyundai and Samsung, we think that they manufacture fridges, they manufacture electronic items. No, they were not fridge and electronic item manufacturers. They were originally shipbuilders. All these big companies were originally shipbuilders because why? They are not car owners, car builders either. Mitsubishi was not a car manufacturing company. It is not an AC manufacturing company. They started as shipbuilders. They then realized that shipbuilding is the mother of heavy engineering, and therefore, from shipbuilding, they have expanded into other territories. So, all of these countries, if you see where they started, America, it was not an engineering manufacturing base till the time they decided to invest in Liberty class of ships, and they produced thousands of Liberty class ships. From there, they became an engineer. They became an engineering powerhouse. So, if you want to become a manufacturing powerhouse, almost all of the countries you will see it all goes back to shipbuilding. They start with shipbuilding and then they are able to expand their footprint into other heavy engineering. It is an ideal product for export because there is a very high level of value addition that happens in shipbuilding. I talked about the national security and strategic independence. There is a huge geopolitical influence that happens when you do a very high level of shipbuilding. You are looking at maritime self-reliance, fleet modernization, MRO, and something that Bose sir also pointed out. You have a 6.4 multiplier effect for every single job that that is created in a shipyard. If you look at the indirect and the induced jobs, 6.82 is getting created, and it's also a huge investment multiplier. For every rupee invested in shipbuilding, it automatically creates a 1.8 multiplier effect on multiple investments in the ancillary industries, etc. And of course, the forex outgo problem, which Bose sir already covered, we're paying 75 billion to somebody else. Why should we be? So ownership and consequent shipbuilding, there are huge advantages if you invest in it. Next. But what is the problem? I think I was just discussing with Bose sir before. We just caught in a vicious cycle. What is the vicious cycle? Bose sir also spoke about it. There is lack of long-term demand clarity, which means there are low ship orders. Why? Because we are not cost effective, we are not time effective. To be cost effective and time effective, you need investment, you need money getting in to make your processes better, etc. But for investment to come in, you need clarity on demand, but there is no clarity of demand. So we're just stuck in this vicious cycle. So unless you address every aspect of this vicious cycle holistically and collectively, this problem is not going to get solved. And that is where the ministry was seized of the fact that, there was a shipbuilding financial assistance policy, but it was addressing one part of the supply side. It was not addressing the demand side, it was not addressing capacity, it was not addressing capability. So the only way to solve the problem is to address all of these elements collectively and holistically. And that's been the effort so far. Next. So that's what is the overall approach? You have to, why are we not able to get global orders? Because we are more expensive, we take more time. How do you address the problem? You have to try and provide the Indian shipyards with a certain amount of competitive, or at least address the competitive disadvantage they face in terms of a Chinese or a Korean shipyard, which means if it takes 20%, 30%, 25% more to build a ship in India, you try to bridge the gap. And that's what the shipbuilding financial assistance policies aim to do. And it's not just addressing that part. We are also trying to circularly incentivize shipbreaking and use that as a kind of a input to improve your shipbuilding order status also. And of course, just like the green hydrogen mission or the semiconductor mission, you cannot do any of it unless you establish a national shipbuilding mission, which will be able to address all of this holistically. So that's getting covered in Pillar 1. Pillar 2 is an important aspect that Bose sir brought about. He said that shipbuilding financial assistance is addressing one part of it. MDF is going to address the other part of it, which means what is the biggest problem that ship owners have? They don't get funding, they don't get capital, they don't get equity, they don't get debt. Ship builders, same problem. Nobody is going to give them. Commander Bose spoke about it. Everything is dependent on your cash reserves. Nobody is willing to fund you. So this second pillar is aimed to address that part. Pillar 3 is, of course, capacity and capability creation. I'll cover that separately. And Pillar 4 specifically address legal and policy reforms where there are certain, like just to give you an example, if you are a ship owner, you will give an order to a shipyard if you are able to get some funding for getting the ship built in India. But you have something called a SURFACE Act, which currently will not let financial institutions directly because of the inherent problems, the way the SURFACE Act is structured, which is essentially a Security Recovery Act. It is structured in such a manner that you can't really, the lender has no way of securing the asset if it's a ship. So, which means he is worried about giving a loan to somebody who wants to own a ship. consequently, because the debt funding for the ship is limited, the owner is also thinking 10 times about placing an order on an Indian shipyard. So effectively, there are hurdles in the taxation policy, in the Surface Act, etc., which don't incentivize a person to own a ship in India and build a ship in India. So collectively, if you are able to address all of these problems, to a large extent, the competitive disadvantage that the ship ownership or shipbuilding has in India, that will get addressed to some extent. And that's been the viewpoint and the focus area in the four-pillar approach. We will first look at the first pillar next. I'll quickly go through what happens. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. What are the salient features? So it's a financial, there used to be an SBFAP 1.0. It's now becoming 2.0 and it's being called SBFAS now, Shipbuilding Financial Assistance Scheme now. Essentially, there is a 15% of offset that is paid for any vessel which is less than 100 crore. Any vessel above 100 crore, you will get, it's a slab, you will get 15% up to the 100 crore value, and anything above 100 crore, you will get 20% of the value. And if you are building a very special vessel, which is a green or a hybrid or a specialized vessel, you will get 15% up to 100 crore, but you will get 25% of the ship value for any value above the 100 crore value. So essentially, you are providing a sort of a subsidy to the shipbuilder so that a large part of the cost disadvantage that is currently suffering is getting covered in this. Next. What is the eligibility? Of course, I request please don't take snapshots of it or put it in the social media. This is still under discussion, but fundamentally what we are trying to do is what Commander Bose sir also tried to put up, that we want to encourage building of larger vessels, but it does not mean that smaller vessels are not covered. But largely the focus is on giving a lot more incentives to build larger vessels. So there are some eligibility thresholds. Typically, we will only cover vessels which are more than 24 meters. For hybrid and electric propulsion, it's that limitation is only 12 meters. For vessels with green fuels, which is methanol, ethanol, ammonia, etc., there is no length restrictions. Of course, please, these are under discussion. The detailed guidelines will come out, and before the detailed guidelines come out, the industry will be consulted extensively. But largely, this is the direction in which it is going. And this is not final by any yardstick, but this is the thought process. And any vessel which is more than 100 crore, which a very, very specialized niche vessel, there is no length restriction at all. So essentially, we are trying to cover as many vessels as possible, having a focus on the niche vessels and vessels which are green fueled or electric propelled, and the larger vessels typically. Next. This is the Atmanirbhar, and shipbuilding doesn't stop with shipbuilding. It should extend to the input, equipment, material and systems that Admiral Bose spoke about. It's not just the hull. How do you make it more, and how do you incentivize a larger indigenous content? Which means, if you have a vessel which is more than 40% domestic content, you will be eligible for the full slab of the scheme. If it's somewhere between 30 to 40%, it will be on a pro rata basis. But if your domestic content is not 30%, then you will not be eligible. But somebody may challenge this and say it's very difficult to achieve 30% because most of the equipment and systems are not available in India. See, yeah, in some ships cases that happen, but largely 30% can be easily achieved because at least 20% of the value addition comes from the shipyard itself. So you are essentially looking at about 10% of the value addition coming from indigenous equipment. But which means if you cross 30%, you're still eligible for the SBFAS. But in the long run, to ensure that a lot more indigenous content, not just in steel, but also in terms of walls, pumps and equipment and engineering equipment, etc., that is what the scheme is essentially looking at. So overall, if you do 40% or more, you are going to get the full subsidy under the scheme. And about 20,000 crore has been allocated for this, which includes covering pre-existing liabilities under the old scheme. So these are the contours of the scheme, and there is a very clear vision to try and incentivize indigenous content to a larger extent. While it is not yet in the scheme of category A, category B, where you will have to 100% have to get it built by an Indian or get it made an Indian manufacturer. It is in that direction. The course has been set. There was discussion that, at least in coastal vessels, we'll have to ensure that at least 50% of the content is indigenous, but there is a lot of pushback from ship owners. We have an ex-CMD from SCA here. He will probably be able to tell us the challenges as a ship owner faces if you try to make it too strict in terms of an indigenous content. So the balancing act is what we are always trying to do. Next. There is a second component, and this is an interesting aspect. What we are trying to tell people is, if you own an old ship and it's no longer economically viable to continue running it, if you go break it in an Indian shipyard, Indian ship breaking yard, then you get a certain advantage. The certain advantage is that you can convert that into a credit note, which can be encashed against a new shipbuilding order in an Indian shipyard. Which means simultaneously we are trying to address, boost the shipbreaking industry in India and use that also to kind of boost the shipbuilding industry in India. So what it essentially means is 40% of the scrap value you will get as a credit note. That is reimbursable against the cost of constructing a new vessel in an Indian shipyard. These credit notes can be stacked up, which means you have 3 old ships you can stack up, but there is a limit that will be up to 5% of the cost of the new vessel. And about 4,000 crore outlay has been set aside for it, which means if you break a ship in India, you can stack 3-4 ships. It is transferable, which means I break a ship, ABC breaks a ship, XYZ breaks a ship. You are wanting to build a new ship in India. You can buy these credit notes from me, stack them up to a certain limit, and then encash it against a new vessel. Next. This, of course, is a very important aspect where, under this scheme, we are also getting a National Shipbuilding Mission funded, which will centrally control all the pillars, which will be driving this in a mission mode, whether it's SBFAS, whether it's Maritime Development Fund, whether it's capacity and capability creation, or the tax reforms. This is going to coordinate a lot of the effort that is required, which will monitor the SBFAS. It will coordinate the aggregation of demand. The number that we are talking about is about 207 ships across Ministry of Petroleum, Natural Gas, Steel, Fertilizer, Coal, etc. We are looking at a demand aggregation of about 207 ships over the next 5 to 10 years. It will also facilitate foreign collaboration, bringing in technology, etc., so that you are improving your shipbuilding practices, you will be becoming better in terms of your output. And of course, there is going to be a periodic review of the impact of the assessment of the impact of all the schemes that are being promulgated currently. Next. So, so the scheme is on paper it is valid till 26, but there is generally an understanding that in principle we'll extend this, because how did China or Korea or Japan become a shipbuilding superpower? It's because they had 25, 30 years of government support in some sort of a scheme. So government is saying, okay, we will look at it after 10 years, but in principle we are generally okay with extending it up to 2047, but of course we will review it in 2036. And of course, committed liability will be honored beyond, like, for example, if you have registered for the scheme, but the construction of the vessel goes beyond 2036, you will still be eligible for the scheme. Next. Why is this required? India needs to enhance financial support to match global shipbuilding leaders over a longer period of time. 25% assistance is proposed for the green vessels, which means we are promoting net zero goals and strategic self-reliance, specifically in these very high-end vessels which are green fueled, or these container vessels which are far more relevant for India's own trade needs. Those have been focused on. There is a financial aid which is focused on export of commercial vessels to help smaller Indian shipyards tap the global markets. The shipbreaking credit notes will boost the eco-compliant recycling while also parallelly boosting the shipbuilding industry. The National Shipbuilding Mission is, of course, needed for coordinating policy, monitoring, and sustainable industry growth. Next. So what has happened currently is, this scheme has now got approved, the Press Information Bureau. Now, from all the policy analysis, all the consultation, it is now on paper a valid scheme, which is now valid up to 31st March 2036, and 24,736 crore has been already allocated and approved by the cabinet for this. So this, I am proud to say that I was a part of this, that for the first time, so much of government funding has been allocated for the shipbuilding industry. In overall, it goes up to around 70,000 crore, but this has never happened in the history of Indian shipbuilding. That so much money is, government is committed to spending so much money for boosting the shipbuilding. Next. The second pillar is going to be talking about the funding. So what happens currently today is, I spoke about the SURFACE Act. If you are a shipyard or a ship owner or anybody in the maritime industry, it's extremely difficult to get equity funding or debt funding. So the SURFACE Act is one of the many hurdles. Even otherwise, nobody is willing to take a ship as a collateral. You can't, till right now, they have just announced that ships will be treated as an infrastructure asset. But before you had problems, you couldn't use it as a collateral. You could not get funding for a shipyard easily unless you had a certain amount of cash reserves. So the government is now looking at pumping in 25,000 crore towards a fund specifically aimed at providing equity and debt funding for shipbuilders, ship owners, etc. Next. Next, please. Like I said, we are all saying that we only own 5% of our cargo is carried by our own ships. 95% is carried by somebody else. The problem is, it's not easy to get funding to own a ship. How do you make it easy? We are handling 5% of the global cargo, which needs substantial enhancement. It's not easy to set up a port. It's very expensive to set up a port. You don't get funding for it. Maritime projects are long gestation. There is problem of capital funding. There is problem of working capital funding. There is problem of interest incentivization, which basically does not incentivize anybody to go and invest in owning a ship or building a shipyard or building a port. Because of the high perceived risk and the lack of collateral, the sector has very little access to affordable. Commander Bose pointed out. Currently, if you want to take a debt in India, it's 10 to 12%. If you're a ship owner or a shipbuilder, it's probably higher. Whereas Japan is talking about 2% debt on 2%, Korea is talking about debt on 3%, China is talking about debt on 4 to 5%. So that's the competition that if you want to be competitive, you have to make this accessible. And you're looking at about 75 to 80,000 lakh crore. Where is the money going to come from? Next, please. So this is a fund that has been created specifically to address the funding problems in the industry. So there is an investment fund, which is an equity fund, and there is an interest incentivization fund, which is going to be a debt funded scheme. The investment fund, it's talking about a 20,000 corpus coming from GOI, and it will be enhanced by contributors from other investors. The government's equity is likely to be around 49%, which may be enhanced from time to time with the consent of the finance ministry, etc. It supports equity financing in maritime sector. The interest incentivization fund is largely towards the debt funding. There's a corpus about 5,000 crore that is planned. 100% budgetary support will be covered under this. It will support debt financing by reducing the cost of financing. Next. So if you look at the equity funding under the maritime investment scheme, the key focus is how do you enhance tonnage, which is how do you enhance Indian ownership, how do you develop shipyards, how do you fund shipyards easily, how do you fund port and linked infrastructure, and how do you increase the modal share of inland and coastal movement, which means how do you increase more ownership of coastal ships by India rather than, depending on some foreign ship owner to come and ship your own cargo within your own country. So this is a blended financial structure which has varying returns and terms to attract private capital. The essence of it is, I will not get into too much details. There will be a fund manager, there will be a government of India, there will be some other investor who's looking at making some money out of putting money, investing in this fund. But the crux, what you need to take away from this is the government of India is putting in a certain percentage, 49%, without having too much of expectation of getting any returns. Effectively, it means that the government is putting some, say, 10,000 crore into this fund and some equity funding is done using this, the government is not expecting too much of return, which means if the private investor is expecting a higher return, overall it will still be a low interest equity funding simply because the government's expectation is pretty low. Next. So this is roughly the structure. It's still worked out. The government is going to fund about 49% of the fund. 51% will be an equity funding from, it can be major ports authority, it can be national interest, FIs, pension funds, private investors, sovereign funds, multilateral institutions. They can invest in this fund. There will be a fund manager. It will be funded as an equity funding. And these are the priority sectors where, if you are shipbuilding, shipbuilding cluster, ship repair, ship ownership, port expansion, inland waterway, coastal expansion, coastal shipping, etc. You are looking for equity funding at a, with not too much of expectation in terms of return. You can access this fund. And other sectors which will also get covered is the logistics parks and MMLPs, etc. Yeah. Next. This is the interest incentivization fund. This is largely towards the debt funding. 5,000 crore has been allocated over the next 10 years. Maximum amount of interest incentive is you can get about 3% of interest incentive reduction in any debt that you get through this fund, which means effectively if you're borrowing at say 7 or 8%, it will come down to 3 or 4 or 5%. Governing Council to appoint the implementing agency. All loan sanction would be covered under this during the entire tenure of the loan. And this does not matter whether it's a loan for ship ownership or a shipyard or working capital of a shipyard. All of this get covered in this. Effectively, you're going to get a 3% incentive reduction in your interest on account of this. Next. What it will do? It will ease ship financing to enhance Indian tonnage, which means Indian ship owners will make it. It will become easier for them. Shipping and shipbuilding indigenously will get easier funding. It will help them create more jobs in the long run. It will facilitate investment in green transition. It will drive the growth in the EXIM trade. And MDF, of course, shall support infrastructure development for and vessel acquisitions for both IWT and coastal shipping, which is going to be crucial given our path to this 40 trillion economy that we're talking about, and a largely manufacturing-based economy. Next. So about 25,000 crore has been approved by the cabinet, and it's valid for a period of 31st March 26. Next, please. I'll go quickly. So the pillar 3 is important. Some of the aspects that Commander Bose covered in his presentation. It is essentially aimed at funding, government funding to support capacity and capability expansion and capacity in terms of greenfield and brownfield, and capability in terms of skilling, in terms of R&D, in terms of ship design, and in terms of providing common facilities. So you must have seen the news. An Indian Ship Technology Center has already been set up under the auspices of the IMU. The ISTC is going to be, can we go to the next slide actually? Yeah. So this is the background. This has already been covered. I don't want to spend too much time on this next. Yeah. So we are looking at about 2 or 3 mega shipbuilding clusters, each with an output of about 1.3 million GT per annum. It can be one massive shipyard, it can be 2-3 shipyards collectively producing 1.3 million GT per annum, which is, each cluster is going to be about 3 times the current India's current total capacity of about 0.5, which is talking about. Each cluster that is being planned is going to be 3 times India's current capacity, and there are 3 such clusters planned, at least, maybe more, depending on what is the kind of interest that we generate. In these clusters, about 9,000 crore is allocated. How will the government spend the 9,000 crore? The government is not going to dictate to the shipyard, you build a shipyard of this size or to build a shipyard of this output. It will facilitate some of the common infrastructure. To build a shipyard, you need a breakwater, you need dredging, you need to develop a harbor, all that costs money. The government will fund that to a certain limit for setting up completely new shipbuilding clusters in all of this, in terms of breakwaters, in terms of dredging. They are planning to set up a special purpose vehicle in collaboration with the state governments wherever these clusters are going to come up. So this SPV will, in addition to this funding coming from the central government, the state governments provide their own capital subsidy. The state governments will give you a subsidy in terms of power, water, electricity, some of the common infrastructure in terms of roads leading up to the clusters, in terms of power supply leading up to the clusters. All of that will be funded through the SPV either through the central government, which is providing funding up to 9,000 crore, or the state government to whatever extent they're willing to fund. So a large amount of support which a shipbuilder would need in establishing a shipyard and the related ancillary ecosystem around it is going to come from this and other add-ons which will come on account of this. Now, one of the questions that somebody asked was related to how do you ensure that the manufacturing ecosystem comes around it. So, in addition to the shipyard, you're also talking about ancillary industries being set up as part of these clusters. And as last session, as you explained, how do China, Japan, Korea attract so many orders? They will tell you, you want a ship in 4 months, you want a ship at this cost. This is a ready-made design with this kind of equipment readily available. You build it here. The cluster concept means, in the long run, you create a cluster either using an indigenously designed and produced propulsion system. I was very happy to learn that you're developing an engine. You're trying to develop an engine along with IIT Madras. Either an indigenous developer or even if it's a collaboration with a foreign engine manufacturer or a propulsion system manufacturer on a license manufacturing basis. If he comes and sets it up along in the cluster, you are basically telling a buyer, you come to me, I will give you a ship of a certain design fixed with a certain equipment fixed. I'll be able to give it to you in 4 months. Why? Because the manufacturer is right next to me. He's not going to spend billions in logistics cost to ship it here. Whenever I want it, exactly at that point in time, he'll be able to supply it to me. And you are able to develop the ecosystem. And just propulsion system is just one example. It can be power generation system, power distribution systems, navigation systems, radars, etc. All other materials like walls, pipes, etc. All of them existing within the cluster. So the ecosystem concept is going to be promoted through this funding. And it's not limited only to the 3 new shipyards. If you are an existing shipyard who wants to expand, you are currently producing, say, about 20,000 GT per annum. Just to give you an example, you want to expand to say 50,000 GT per annum. You want to set up a new dry dock. You want to acquire land somewhere and develop a new slipway, dry dock, or a new jetty. Some part of that funding, if you set up, say, that is still getting worked out, but roughly you can assume that about 10, 15, 20% of the cost of expanding will be covered through this scheme. Capability development initiatives, an ISTC is being set up. There are some very interesting schemes, sub-schemes which are covered in it, which are being deliberated and worked out. One of the schemes is one of the biggest problems in ship design today is the cost of software is so expensive. Some of the small ship design firms, I'm sure there are many of them in Kolkata, which are doing excellent work, but are not able to really scale because the cost of software is very expensive. So what the government is going to do through the ISTC is to acquire the software and provide the software on a floating license basis to anybody who wants to come and work there. So which will reduce the cost of acquisition of the software and provide access to anybody who wants to use it. It is going to create, the ISTC is also, somebody was asking about skilling. The Prime Minister Internship Scheme already provides for funding of this skilling, but that's just the funding. The ISTC is now going to do this training and skilling in a coordinated manner by working with universities like IMU, QSAT, IITs, etc. to get that transition from an academic trainee to someone who's ready for the industry. In terms of the internship and apprentice scheme, the schemes will be coordinated by ISTC in conjunction with the PMIS scheme, which is run by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So essentially, we are looking at about 85,000 people getting trained every year under this coordinated scheme, maybe more. And there is a risk coverage. If you are a shipyard, you're building a vessel, there are many owners who will tell you, you start building the vessel, I'll give you 10-15% advance, I'll give you the rest of the money when I deliver. And at the time of delivery, he vanishes. How do you cover such risks? There is currently no product in the market, financial product in the market, which covers these kind of shipbuilding risks. There are several types of risk like this, he doesn't take delivery, or he delays the delivery, or he foregoes the delivery, or there is the equipment that is coming in, there are risks related to that. To cover all these risks that a shipbuilder typically faces, a separate funding has been allocated, about 1,500 crore has been allocated. Special products will be created. There will be either using the export for export orders, risk-related export orders, ECGC may cover. Some other insurance company, maybe New India Assurance or somebody would be identified to develop products which will cover the shipbuilding risk. Next. So how will it help? It will expand in the shipbuilding capacity. It will help in the expansion of the shipbuilding capacity with creation of new large shipyards and expansion of existing shipyards. The capacity and capability development, including skilling and access to certain common facilities, will also be facilitated. And it is, like I said, we are addressing the financing part, we are addressing the viability gap part, we are addressing the capacity and capability creation part. So, holistically, these three pillars are expected to cover all of this together. Next. And currently, about again 20,000 crore approval has already been given. Next, please. So if you look at all of these three together in the history of this country, 70,000 crore being pumped into shipbuilding industry has never happened. Government spending 70,000 crore has never happened. So you can understand the level to which the government is sensitized about our fraternity, our industry, that it is such an important strategic industry. The government needs to invest and pump money to create this kind of a large ecosystem addressing all of the aspects holistically. So, I mean, to a large extent, it is going for all the young people who are sitting here. This is the future that is being created for you. But it doesn't stop here. It depends extensively on your contribution to take this forward and make it sustainable and translate this country into one of the biggest shipbuilding powers in the world. The vision is there, the intent is there, the seeds have been sowed already. It is upon us to take this forward and really make this a really successful scheme. Next. What is the expected impact? If we do it right with this impact, we estimate that about 96,000 crores of worth of ships can be manufactured in this country in the next 20 to 25 years. 4 to 5 lakh crores of overall investments can be generated. We will reach the top 10 by 2030 and top 5. And most importantly, 30 lakh jobs will be created by 2047. I think that is this is our opportunity for our own fraternity to help our own future fraternity, and hopefully we will take this forward in the most positive way. With that, I would close my presentation. Thanks. Just 1 minute. Just a few. Some of the it will get us strategic independence. It will give us a boost to our manufacturing sector. Like I told you, heavy industry manufacturing. New maritime cities will develop. You are going to save so much on forex outgo, large employment opportunities, extraordinary export potential is going to come out of this, huge investment in GDP growth, and of course the development of the heavy engineering ecosystem, which will spur manufacturing to a very, very high level. So like I said, it's in our hands now. We've asked for it. They have given us something. Let's use it to make it really successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander Jayakumar. I think he has laid out a great vision for the young cadets who are here with us. So I will permit maybe one, because we have a time constraint. He has to go.
Sir, please, sir.
In pillar 4, you mentioned that flag of the ship in India. I do not believe that. That will not develop the shipbuilding industry. If we allow the ships to be registered in tax haven countries, many shipping companies will place order. Many. I have worked in Shipping Corporation of India, and government insisted us that we have to register in India. But if we register in tax haven country, there will be many shipping companies who will place order.
Yes, point is very well taken, sir. This is this government and all the people working in the policy, including us who are advising them, are seized of this. We need to develop a balance. Strategically, there are certain advantages of flagging in your country. See, if you are a country like China, where a lot of whip works, you can have it flagged anywhere, but as long as the owner is based in China, you have strategic control over your shipping fleet. But in a democratic country like India, if you let somebody flag somewhere, he'll say, you be a owner, you flag it somewhere. You can't kind of exercise the control and restraint that China is able to control its fleet the way India. So to that extent, I agree. We have to get a balance. We have to find a way that, how do you make flagging in India a little bit more attractive? Currently, the problem is tax is a problem. What if you let them flag, but target the tax part in some way? So the pillar 4 is not just about one issue. It is talking about amending the SURFACE Act. It's talking about getting tax. One of the biggest problems shipyards face is the inverted tax structure. So other kind of tax reforms in shipping and shipbuilding is being targeted. Of course, these have long-term implications because it affects the revenue of the country. Anything you have to do with tax, the moment you touch it, it kind of has spin-offs in revenues, etc. So therefore, there will always be a balance track. But your point is very much valid, sir. Yes, how do we balance it is always the question. So that's why it's still a work in progress. Yes.
You have talked about the policy initiatives as far as the money is concerned, finance is concerned. But I think we must now work on the implementation mission as well as feedback. That means after implementation, what is the result and outcome of it? So these two measurements must be also taken up, and KPUT is a large organization. I should start with those kind of initiatives so that it is properly, we reach the, we can make the shipbuilding as a great industry in India.
Yes, sir. A very valid.
Second part, that is a policy initiative I wish to take. I wish to highlight it in this forum. Is that for inland vessels as well as coastal vessels of India, why can't we allow second-hand equipment and machineries for the ships? Then the price will come down by 50% and cargoes are available and there will be owners and there will be, loan effect will be much lesser. So it is a financial benefit. The skeleton, the hull has to be new because that is the platform. But other equipment, for example, suppose a crane, then owner can always input a second-hand crane, okay, or even the pumps. I am talking about from my experience because for project work, I have used all second-hand machineries and completed the big projects. So this factor can be taken in. That is the policy initiatives, so that owning a ship is easier off.
Yes, sir. So to answer your first question, implementation, we are all very good at making policies. We always struggle when you have to implement, which is the reason why consciously a national shipbuilding mission has been set up. It's not just going to be run like any other scheme. There is going to be there is going to be industry consultation while the guidelines. I am not at liberty to share, but I can assure you that every single bit of what can happen, what can fail, how people can struggle, all of that it's gone into the most highest level of detail while coming out of the implementation guidelines. And it is going to be monitored continuously. The feedback, the impact of the schemes are going to be measured, which is the reason why the shipbuilding mission has been set up. So your points are very valid, and we are very much seized of the fact that we need to do this, and it's being done, sir. To answer your second part of your question, I think that is currently, as long as you're able to produce a quality ship at a low cost in time, it does not matter what is the vintage of the equipment that goes into a ship, as long as it meets the classification society's requirements in terms of, as long as the classification society is able to certify the vessel, I don't think there is any problem in. No, there is, the choice is always there. There are always trade-offs. Cost is an important factor that you brought out. Quality is also an important factor. Timely delivery is also an important factor. So put all of this together. If you're able to come up with a solution that meets, ultimately nobody is going to compromise on safety. Nobody is going to compromise on fundamental requirements of the vessel. After that, if you're able to provide cost-effective solutions, which the classification society is willing to certify, I don't see any problem in that. But
anyway, I didn't want to pose a question. I just wanted to mention, I think Mr. Jayakumar is very, very well aware, but being in KPMG working with government, he didn't mention because this is just in the paper. But to address the flag issue, in any case, Government of India is considering a second registry, just like NIS. That is very much on the card. So at least to that extent, the flagging issue will get partially resolved. And in any case, the flagging or rather registering in Gift City, in any case, even at this moment,
is possible.
The second registry is something in the making. But that Gift City is already there, all the plans are already there. And the other thing I just, of course, this is just what you mentioned. I also wanted to give a rejoinder that as far as the ship is concerned, as long as the flag as well as the class permits it to, declares it as a seaworthy vessel and permits it to sail, what is the make of a particular equipment? That will definitely appear in the certificate. I mean, if you want to say that it's just a new build ship, obviously these facts that whatever we got from Alan or we got from wherever, the machinery, whatever is the make, the year of make and all that, that has to be mentioned in the certificate. I mean, that cannot be omitted, but otherwise there is absolutely no bar on that ship line.
Yes.
And since I have the mic, I just wanted to mention one thing, that people like us, I am in this industry, of course, I mean, much junior to many others here, but I am also in shipping for well over 5 decades. For decades, year after year, we have looked at the budget and never found the word shipping or maritime in it. Every year we hoped, because every year faithfully we went along with the Honorable Minister of Shipping to the Honorable Finance Minister for our presentation and everything. Every year they faithfully noted down what we are representing. But at the end of the day, in the budget, we never found any mention. So we are absolutely thrilled that this kind of emphasis is being given on maritime and shipping. I keep on saying that India, not only the question of maritime heritage, but we must be all proud that this is the only nation in the world after which an ocean has been named. No other country in the world has an ocean named after it. It's only India which has it. So now that we are giving, and we were also so happy to see the Prime Minister coming for every important maritime event. Earlier we used to say that Singapore, Philippines, Cyprus, we used to see their President or Prime Minister coming for their maritime events, and we used to feel that why can't this happen in India? Now it is happening. So I must say that we are very happy with it.
Thank you, sir. And I will tell you, the PMO is personally invested in the scheme. I have been part of the journey for the last 1.5 years. It's not just that we made a scheme and they just looked at it. They were getting into the nuts and bolts. They wanted to understand every aspect of it. And there are many places where they came back and said, like this indigenous content, we were saying maybe we should consider. He said no. Because it's not just enough if we make ships here, we have to make shipboard equipment and systems also in India. So the intent and the investment is very much there. Like I said, sir, we have now made a beginning. It's all efforts of yours. It's not that your efforts of all these years have gone waste. You have built the momentum. It's just that some of us are in the right time at right place to put it in the perspective, and somehow something has come out of it. And you all should be. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
One last question from the cadets. One last question, only from the cadets. Anyone?
Yeah.
Hi, there's a question.
Yeah.
Sir, my name is Cadet Ingadev Sinha. Sir, I wanted to ask you that as students of marine engineering, what contribution can we provide to shipbuilding industry?
There is so much that you can do. I was just given to understand that somebody in your class or your team is working with Atmanirbhar to develop an engine. That is just the starting point. Shipbuilding industry is 35% of the value addition comes from the shipyard. 65% of value addition in shipbuilding comes from equipment manufacturers, marine engineers who are going to build, design, develop, manufacture, and repair and maintain these engines. If you are able to do this collectively, why is South Korea, China, Japan superpower in shipbuilding today? It's because not just shipbuilders who did it. It's because all the ancillary industries also who did it. So as marine engineers, you have an extremely important role in driving this entire Atmanirbhar and indigenization, where maybe 5-10 years from now, we can talk about ships built in India containing almost every equipment designed, built, manufactured in India, and that's only possible with people like you. I hope I
So,
answered it.
one more question.
Yeah, please.
So, what are the possible internships that GRSE can offer us?
GRSE can answer, but I will tell you what is going to happen in the this capability development scheme.
Yes.
Under the Prime Minister internship scheme, there is going to be special coordinated efforts which IMU and ISTC will organize for positioning people like you in different shipyards to go through this internship. The money will come from the PMIS scheme, but it is a very coordinated, very focused internship program that IMU and ISTC will coordinate and do. So there is something definitely coming for you. Maybe GRSE, maybe Swan, maybe L&T shipyard. Somewhere the effort is to position cadets like you, under trainees like you, to go through that internship.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commander Jayakumar, for a very invigorating and a very eye-opening kind of this thing. I think it has piqued the interest of the entire community at large. May I take this opportunity to present Commander Jayakumar with a crest? Thank you once again, Commander Jayakumar, for taking our time from the busy schedule.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. It's my privilege and my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
The next speaker is Professor Dipankar Sinha. In fact, the steering committee opined that we need to okay. So Commander Jayakumar, again, he's also following Commander Bose. They are going to Delhi for a seminar. So now the next speaker that we have is Professor Dipankar Sinha. The steering committee thought that we should expose our community to a wider canvas and what is happening on the global trade scenario around us in the maritime domain. So we had to look out of the box for our next topic. Professor Dipankar Sinha, again, not too far, is a PhD in Industrial Engineering and Systems Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, where many of us are from. And he has served as a professor in Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. He is head of the International Trade Operations and Logistics Divisions at IFT. He also heads the Research Division and Center for Trade Facility at the Kolkata campus of IFT. So he has served in the port industry for about 20 odd years, being in the academics, training, consultancy. He has done research for around 17 years. He has 2 patents to his name, and he is a recipient of awards from various organizations like the Ports and Harbour Associations, Industrial Engineering Operations Management, in IIM, Lucknow, IQR, from Kolkata Port Trust, and he has presented papers in national and international conferences all over the world. He has got 3 books and 50 articles in national and international journals. He has guided about 6 PhD students, and presently 4 are working under him. He's also advised the Ministry of Shipping, Ports and Waterways, Roads and Transport, Bureau of Industry Indian Standards, External Affairs, Asian Development Bank. So he has been with us, in and around us. So he will tell us about maritime trade and infrastructure, prospects and challenges. Maritime trade consists about 80% of the world's merchandise trade, and thus very crucial to the global supply chains, as has been brought out in the previous papers. So he will cover another aspect of the maritime trade cycle, prospects, challenges. So without any further ado, Professor Sinha, please take the stage.
At the outset, I should thank uh, Indian Naval Architecture, Institute of Naval Architecture, INA, for giving me the opportunity to speak before the August gathering, and that too uh, all learned persons in the arena of shipbuilding. And since I have been into port and shipping for many years, and and to some extent also had a stint of knowing how shipbuilding takes place and monitoring the projects, especially in Hooghly Dock Port Engineering. Now the question is the great mission of the country, Atmanirbhar, and I think it is not a one-stop game. It is a continuous evolving process, and it will continue even beyond 2047. There are certain targets which are laid down by that time. Now, any such mission of the country as a whole can be successful if things are not done in silos. All the ministries, departments, agencies, and stakeholders, they have been planning to achieve the target, and there are integration, but I think there is need to integrate more into the thinking process, and then the implementation, and finally the outcome of the feedback that someone was talking about. Like, say, for example, in the international maritime trade, India is almost 90 to 95%. And uh, it all depends on how much the port capacity should be enhanced, will depend on the economic demand of the country. So another 2 trillion economy. So whatever is the target now, we need to enhance it. But the question is that we have already decided that 10,000 ton capacity port port capacity should be achieved by 2047. If that be so, then we need to calculate backwards that how many ports of what capacity it should increase, and that must have been done. But what I intend to tell you or think over is that when we talk of certain capacity, say 10 million capacity per month, and when you talk of 10 million capacity per month, so you need an infrastructure. Now you need an infrastructure where you need berths to accommodate the ships. But what should be the size of the berth? Is it meant for Panamax vessel or Suezmax or Cape size vessel? Or we are working on a smaller size Handymax or handy size vessels for that matter? If we are aiming to accommodate a particular size of the ship, then to what extent the Indian shipbuilding industry will cater to it? And how much of the existing fleet over a period of time exist to support our port capacity mission? Okay, if I understand that port increases the capacity, there are ships to bring those cargo, but are the shipping lines willing to bring ships in such ports, especially when we are targeting mega ports in the country, Vizhinjam, Vadhavan, though these ports, Vizhinjam has been already experiencing big ships coming there. The question is that to what extent they can be converted into transshipment hubs, because the country's marine traffic is limited to the country's import and export growth. Now, if we need to be among the top 10, like what Singapore is, number 2 in the world, though they are not manufacturing, they handle around 80% of the transshipment traffic. So, out of 10 major container ports in the world, 6 of them belong to China, and around 20 million, 200 million TEUs are only handled single-handedly by one country. So if we want to achieve, we should have a target. Now, when we have a target that we have already laid down, how do we increase that? So we need to build some infrastructure. So that is quite obvious. We need to build some infrastructure. But what is that infrastructure going to address? Will it improve our port liner connectivity? Will it improve our port productivity? Will it lead to lower turnaround times? Will the congestion and pre-boarding delays be less? So, when we calculate backwards, then we need to see that whatever be the performance of the port, are the exporters and importer or the trade in general willing to accept that whatever government of India has laid down whatever the port has carried out, whatever public-private partnerships have achieved, the shippers are ready to accept these ports or this particular infrastructure for their use. Now that is, port is not a standalone infrastructure. It has to be backed by hinterland connectivity. And in hinterland connectivity, we have road, rail, and waterways. Waterways are more sustainable, cheaper, but it's not getting a success. Inland waterways has been struggling. Nothing beyond cruise ships have done so well. There are few barges which are operating in the Indo-Bangladesh Protocol TT, and number of barges have not come up. Now, even if you bring in low-cost barges, second-hand barges, will the barges still be economical? It is said that in waterways, the minimum threshold distance should be 1500 kilometers. National Waterways 1 alone is only 1600. So, in no case we find that the barge owners will be interested in bringing the cargo, though it has been other problems exist like night navigation, low availability of the draft. So, is there a possibility that we integrate the inland waterways with the coastal waterways? That means allow the inland waterways barges to ply up to the coastal ports, and then from the coastal ports onwards, then it is transshipped to mainline vessels for onward transmission to the global market. And if so, then is there a requirement of the coastal jetties to transform into custom bonded areas where cargo can get cleared once loaded on board the barges? No more custom clearances are required. Otherwise, why water is not preferred? Because there are a lot of hop, step, and jumps to be done. Number of, the material handling takes place in more than one node. And when there is any more, the multiple nodes are involved, from the warehouse to the by truck, from the truck to the coastal jetty, from coastal jetty to another coastal jetty, then again by truck or train. So many nodes get involved, and every node is a delay point, whatever be the efficiency. Every node is a cost center, whatever be the minimum cost. And every node there is a possibility of damage or perishability. So given these situations, the idea is to minimize the prohibition, the hindrances in the flow of the cargo. And when we talk of the connectivity should be seamless. And why road is popular, as it is more than 65% of the entire transportation share in the country is road, and rail is only to the tune of 30% or so. The reason is road offers door-to-door movement, and the number of transshipments involved in between, domestic transshipments are very less. So all these hindrances, the business houses are interested in convenience and less uncertainty. The moment they find there is an uncertainty involved, even if it is cost less, they are not going to adopt that. So in this enhancement of the capacities as a whole and enhancing the shipbuilding capacity of the country, as well as the marine infrastructure, the trade should be able to accept that. So it is the bottom of the pyramid that would be the ultimate user, because for them it is to facilitate the time and cost of doing business. Now, if the time and cost of doing business comes down, so obviously the economic growth will take place. So I started off saying that economic development should be the premise, economic growth should be the premise for all capacity building, whether it is shipbuilding or whether it is port infrastructure or whether it is hinterland connectivity or whether it is a process improvement. So process improvement is a very important aspect. We need to improve our processes. Like we know that the shipbuilding yards are suffering from time delays, and one of the major reasons for the time delays that they pointed out was that of importing items which takes longer months. So when the order has to be placed, maybe before it comes to the drawing board, the order for the engines have to go. So how come we can strengthen the supply chains? Like within India, we have made tie-ups in naval ships building, that we talk to Bharat Electronics for certain components and few other. When we go global, when we do commercial, what kind of supply chain tie-ups can be done? What thought process have gone into? Who would be the possible supply chain? Would be in the possible supply chain? And Secondly, when I talk of the implementation and feedback, one of the issues that I currently feel is the choice of the right metric to measure the performance. For example, the turnaround time of ships is one of the crucial performance indicator of the port. But we know that turnaround time of the ship can be more if the parcel load or the load per vessel is more for a given productivity. Now, wherever the ships are bigger in size, comes with a higher cargo level, the turnaround time would be higher. So how are we comparing a port with lower turnaround time with a higher turnaround time? When we talk of berth occupancy, most of the ports have 70 to 80% berth occupancy, which indicates that the port resources are being utilized to a satisfactory level. But then, correspondingly, how many ships are waiting? So if we see that the waiting of the ships are also to the tune of 24 one day to 5 days, and in some ports it is almost to the tune of 10 days, then the point of berth occupancy needs to be relooked, that whether the number of berths are performing with low productivity, because the pricing system in the country is such that in short run we are unable to detect the inefficiencies. Why? Because the port tariffs are based on the number of days ship stays in the berth. Like we stay in the hotels. In a hotel room, the number of days you stay in a hotel, you pay for it. But in the port, the things are slightly different. If the ship stays in the port till the job is done, and the job is not in the hand of the ship, it is on the hands of the port. If the ports are inefficient, then longer stay at berth and higher the revenue. Maybe in the mid run or the long run, the ports realize when the shipping lines deviate the routes, but ultimately the loss to the exchequer has been already done. There is an opportunity cost to it. So identifying the right KPI to ensure the implementation and the feedback should be taken into account. So far, the overall Atmanirbhar vision is concerned. So far, the marine MIV to 2030 is concerned and should be plugged in with the other Atmanirbhar visions of railways, roads, inland waterways, and the customs and process development part of it. So that's all what I wanted to tell you in nutshell. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you, Professor Sinha, for touching upon a very important topic of the inland waterways. So we have here with us Mukul, who's an alumnus of IIT Kharagpur Mechanical Engineering, went to Texas and has come back. They are one of the biggest operators of the inland waterways in the eastern region of India. And next, I think, present is this thing, you should make something, what he has touched upon. I would request Mukul, you take on in the next seminar. So thank you, Professor Dipankar Sinha, for this very interesting topic. May I request our President, Mr. Ranjit Roy, to present you with the crest. Thank you, Professor Sinha. Our next speaker needs no introduction. Professor Ishwara is an associate professor at IMU, MEO First Class. He has had a very checkered career in the maritime field. He's doing an interesting project. He's done a lot of interesting projects in Gangavaram with NSDRC, and now in the lab just across the room. He's doing a very well for NSTL. He's done projects for Birla Corporation, IOCL, the range of. He's now working on the stern tube bearing project for NSTL with the cadets, which will be a great learning experience. He's got a few cadets for himself, and he will be now from policy. We are coming into the tech. He'll be talking about the very seminal topic of alternate fuels, which is the flavor of the day. So without any further wastage of time, I would now hand over the stage to Professor Ishwara. Professor Ishwara, please.
Thank you, sir. Very good evening, distinguished dignitaries seated here, the naval architects, dear cadets, and everyone present in this August gathering. Today evening, I'm about to talk about the indigenization of ship machinery and equipment in India. So far, we have heard about most of the approaches detailing how we can do Atmanirbhar from top-down approach. What are the government schemes? What are the support mechanisms and all? Uh, my experience with the international shipping and also daily the cadets, they teach me an important lesson because down the lane, what we do, we grow up and we forget how we learned things. These cadets remind me every day what are the learning difficulties, so that revisits me to that same feeling. So I'm more connected from the bottom up approach. So that is what I'm going to apply to showcase actually what are the bottlenecks in the Atmanirbhar, because any kind of top down approach may not yield results unless the ground moves. So that is what I'm going to apply. So my presentation structure, the indigenization imperatives. Rather than reading that particular thing, I'll tell you what I did. To know about the present market difficulties, I interacted with a lot of vendors, actually, with several MSMEs, and also the new cadets who are there. So I read their mind, so that how I structured. So I used mainly the tender documents which are there in the public domain, which are floated by the shipyards, pulled out certain points, clauses, and discuss with the MSMEs what are the difficulties they are facing. And I'm trying to piece a very impactful presentation. I believe it would help all the people. It would touch the core issues which are plaguing on the ground. Also, I request any institution of naval architects, if they're kind enough, they can take it up and put it at an appropriate forum where the top dignitaries will take note of this bottom up. So, why indigenization? People have already talked about. These are the statistics. Some of them may seem controversial, but they are the ground realities. That 90% of import dependency for marine engines, critical supply chain. These are all addressed actually. Technology lock-in with foreign OEMs and all. Policy, we have a new shipbuilding mission with about 69 725 crore allocation. So that is the impetus that we are getting. But I will tell you more pressing concerns. If you look at the ship's machinery, the indigenous content is hovering 10 to 15%. I will tell you where the difficulty is. Possibly it may look 60, 70, 80% also. But we have seen what is the issue with some of the vendors. So the current reality, and I told you what is the target which is being looked by the decision maker, policy makers. They want to achieve much higher levels. So there is a gap between what is the policy intent and the ground reality. And there are, that reveals actually there are many systematic barriers which are not seen actually, which are not understood. We have to live through that bottom up approach to understand what it is. So next slide. So if you look at the tenders, I told you that I picked up most of the points from the tender clauses. The first thing that I've listed few important, impactful things only. I did not go into the complete details. One of the thing that usually put as a parameter, because shipyards are worried. It is not their mistake. They are worried about the deliverable. So they put certain clauses that you should have so much turnover. You should have a positive balance sheet. Then you should have PPGs. Then you should have warranty periods. But what it is actually on the ground, what is going on the MSMEs is just this. 95% it eliminates. Startups and innovators cannot even enter the market. Foreign subsidiaries will easily meet this threshold. Indigenous R&D remains unfunded due to no track record. Risk-averse shipyard choose established imports because they want to be on the safer side. They don't want to default. Next slide. So the critical issue, if you look at all these things around, it comes very clear. The pre-bid qualification is essentially looking at it the procurement as a commodity. They are not looking at it as a technology growth. This is where the biggest hindrance is. So unless we treat it as a technology development, the chicken egg problem will remain. Orders cannot get without experience, cannot gain experience without orders. So that is the biggest flaw in that particular clause. Second clause that you will find normally is renowned make. So, for example, it will be referring that MA and BW are equivalent. That shows that it will go to only foreign OEM. Then OEM subsidiaries only will get with all the clauses that it gets, type approvals. If you ask, it will take 12 to 18 months. So MSMEs can't meet most of these timelines. So they run away from these kind of things. Second slide. So this performance-based specifications would enable competition. That is true. But what happens is the current practice of tender writers, they tend to write around the foreign products. So that has to be avoided. It's a high time that we have to look forward. Then there are disproportionate penalties for the failures that delay this much speed deficiency, you get this much penalty, fuel consumption you get. Then you have to extend 12 months warranty and all. So what it is essentially doing, Indian MSCs, they do crush the prospects. They can't have global risk pools, what MNCs have already done, the global players, they have a bigger insurance pools there. These MSMEs, they can't take that kind of risks. Then what happens, shipyards also transfer all the performance risk to the vendor. So unless it is a big order where somebody is very eager to take risk, he will not enter that particular bid only. That is where the bottleneck is. Another bottleneck that, what I will tell you is this barrier category. What South Korean people have discussed about, but I spoke to some of the Koreans because I worked with them also. So I understand a little bit of what has happened way back in 79, 80s and all. South Korean shipbuilders, they do it in clusters. They hunt like a pack of wolves, actually. They all sit together. And the government backed technology, the development insurance, there is a risk insurance also for these particular projects. So everything is backed by government. They take care. If you fail, we will pay. Don't worry, but you do. That is the positive atmosphere that is there in Korea. In India, you see all the subsidies, all the grants, but nowhere you will find this category that government will own the risks initially to develop shipbuilding in India. There is no heading for that. This is one very big missing thing. Government should be like the what you say, it's big brother, that I am there, you go ahead. But that is the part which should be looked upon. Then the next thing, you see, just an approval thing, I just put it in a flow chart. What happens if an MSME wants to do a ship machinery? This is the loop that they fall in. You will have to incur some 15 lakh rupees, which is a big budget actually for MSME. For them, every penny will count. It will go in a lock period for about 18 months. See the indigenous equipment prototype, document review, laboratory testing, sea trials. If it fails, market entry. By then, that order might have gone because there is a bid time is very limited. Nobody can foresee what bid is going to be open, what is the demand, and this is the problem. Then how make in India, all these issues will try to force actually people to become aggregators rather than manufacturers. So what they do is they try to assemble, they try to import completely knockdown kits. You see that it's a forum, right? It may be controversial, but most of your vehicles actually, which are made in India also, the fuel pumps, everything is imported. Fiat makes most of the engines that goes into the Mahindras, Tatas, everywhere. This is the ultimate truth on the ground. So somebody is asking what is there, my role. You should change that particular status quo. You should be doing all those things in India. So there is a policy disconnect that current procurement accepts import content with exchange rate variations, which you will find in tender clauses. This itself is giving one side room entry, for the people that, okay, foreign players can come in. 'That itself shows that people are willing to accept them. The next slide. So what has happened? This is the important chart which I want to show. The cumulative impact is a vicious cycle. What it is? The PQC pre-quality qualification conditions, financials, tech barriers, they fall under two things. Mostly MSMEs are discouraged looking at them, and then MSMEs when they do it also on short as an aggregators, you don't find actually track record of indigenous content. That is where the figures will become changing. You know that 80%, 60% will keep on coming. And second approach is the foreign OEMs dominate. They choose shipyards for safe import, no demand and no R&D. Then again, it goes and reinforces for foreign equipment. And this is what is going on for many, many years. Possibly I may be a little bit wrong, but people may correct me from this particular thing. Then there are quality perception, inconsistent material quality, as I told about the things. I will not read about all the slides. I will keep it open in the forum. But I'm making things aware that it's a bottom to top approach where I'm highlighting various problems picked up from the people who are working actually in the Atmanirbhar of Bharat. You know, they are the real people. I picked up these points from them. So they deserve the credit. Like main marine diesel engines, you see, in India we don't have above a certain particular power rating. We can't have an indigenous engine. Azimuth thrusters we don't have. Oh, it's you see the dependency how much we are 95% on marine diesels, 98% on azimuth thrusters, automation and control. What happens in the automation and control? Even recently, our cadets have designed a circuit. They have developed everything. But what was happening with the chips was that the Indian local chips, when we were using, the reliability became an issue. So ultimately, we have to use Texas Instruments chips, which were very reliable. That solved our problem because even we are also answerable to the project people. So even we did it because we could not go ahead with the local content. This is the difficulty ground reality. Next slide. Then I highlighted few of the systems, how the thing are the pattern recognition, indigenous capability exists for lower power, less complex systems, critical gap exists in high performance, safety critical and precision control system where reliability requirements are stringent and failure costs are high. Here, there is no, I mean, it's a completely difficult terrain for the Indian local talent growth. Then steels, I put it IRS here is the Indian Railway Standard grades. That they are the bulk orders, so you find that steel, but you don't find steel for the ships. Even we have to import from China or Korea for the steel plates, and we have to even build the hull. These are all the bottlenecks. What will happen? The when we import the steel, our cost automatically exceeds. People may think that in India we should be able to make ships at a lower cost, but our cost imports increases more than 20 to 30% to China or Korea because of all these things. Second, there is a productivity issue also. I will talk about the human element things in the following slide. So, developing indigenous things, we have to have coordinated efforts from various stakeholders. It is not one shipbuilding yard or the government. It is even from various people who have to be involved. Then this slide I would like to stress because I'm closely working with cadets. So I would like to highlight what is happening. There are several engineers who are there, you know, with the working age group. 28 looks promising, but the biggest attitude barriers to shipbuilding manufacturing is that low esteem. People think that if he is working in a shipyard or in a manufacturing facility where something is being made, fabricated, people think that he is not so intelligent, so he got this job. Otherwise, he should have been somewhere else. This particular perception has to be socially engineered to tweak their minds. Like you have to create more YouTube influencers to who will bring esteem and prestige to these jobs. Otherwise, people will continue to think that what Hollywood teaches them. So this is one particular thing where manufacturing is getting defeated. You don't find people who would like to work for long, long years. So I find this attitude even among the young graduates who join actually, and they keep thinking that what are the other jobs after I join the ship? Ship itself is the biggest career, is the one thing that they don't realize. So those people who are asking that question, please believe me, shipping is the most promising career you have. It is not that what I will do after shipping. That particular attitude has to be curtailed. And the skills mismatch is there. The other thing where the skills mismatch comes in is that the basic engineering apprentice at the younger age is missing. How do you measure things? How do you weigh things? How do you buy things? These are the things which are very, very essential, which you may underestimate. But this is what is translating to the drawing board. When you look at a machinery, you will fail to describe it properly. You should fail to mention the specification. You do not know what to do. The skills which you are talking about apprenticeship, I suggest that you start doing your entire family jobs, that what your father and mother doing, you take it upon yourself, and that is the biggest internship you will have. And secondly, you start working in any workshop. That's really good. Even with the small repair shops which exist in the city, that's how they are manufacturing things and all, how they are operating lathes, milling machines, how they are manufacturing, because this is where the material to the product conversion takes place, how the value chain develops. Then the work culture issues, I brought it. So the next slide, attitudes also I brought it. The next slide. Oh, I would talk about these things. I have earlier the dignitaries have already spoken about some of the things, but I highlighted. Next slide. So success requires comprehensive ecosystem approach, not piecemeal interventions. Most of our government policies are piecemeal interventions. Believe me, it may look promising, but it is a piecemeal approach because we don't have a long, say, prolonged government policy which lasts for about 20, 30 years. You never know which government will come and change it. Next slide. I just run through some of the case studies which Japan, Korea, and China has done. What China has done is they have done this Kaizen, continuous improvement philosophy, they have drilled into the kids so that when they grow, they become very good, competent engineers who work in the shipyards and then make things. They are actually brought that particular passion into it. They have included lifetime employment. There is a Ministry of International Trade and Partnerships. They have vocational training. They have. Then initially they started with licensing. Then there is a systematic approach, improvement. Then heavy investments in R&D were then indigenized. How they have achieved the entire roadmap I listed. This is from the people who are involved exactly in the conversion in Japan. Second key lesson for India: Japan did not achieve indigenization through import substitution mandates, but through deliberate capability, that is capacity building with patient capital, quality obsession. That is why you see that Japanese, they are quality obsessive people. That is what even we know. They are very punctual, quality obsessive. These are the two qualities you get. Why? Because that is how they have trained their population to get it to that level. South Korea, I will tell you, you will find striking similarity to India also. They have also used some of the social experiments to attract crowds, actually, the young generation, popular with the hand references, that is the perpetual suffering if you are not excellent in productivity, because foreigners will rule. That is how they brought the people to working boats. Then they have massive subsidies to few of the wealthy families. This Samsung, Devu, and all, they are all the people like Adani, Godrej, and these people. They were made so powerful there. They were given all the liberty, created clusters. These people, they have, out of the profits that you see, that Ulsan and Jio, they are the shipbuilding zones where if you should visit actually to see what is actually the shipbuilding cluster is. We can learn a lot from these two places. Profit sharing, the worker, that is how Korea has done it. Korea said that we will give equity also of the particular thing that you are value addition, bringing onto the manufacturing sector. Then they have service bonds after training. Then they have developed captive supplier parks, technology transfer mandated in foreign collaboration, achieved 90% indigenous content by 1980s. And they created vast amount of maritime professionals through their sustained academia, that is at a more, you say, polytechnic level. The key lesson for India: they have achieved rapid indigenization, coordinated industrial policy combining assured demand, financial support, cluster development, vendor cultivation, and also Korea is a very big supporter of this industry. They cover the risks also. If they fail, they're okay. Even now, when the AI green technologies are coming, now they have introduced a new version of the insurance policy for these things, that if you go wrong, even with experimenting some fuel, some technology, we will back you up. You please go ahead. that assurance itself will put them at a advantageous position than India. In India, that assurance is not there from government. If you fail, you are killed. It's almost on the firing line. So that kind of scenario should change. Then China, what they have done, they hide the Japanese and Czech Koreans. You see, because they have become masters, they hide initially. They spent a lot of money, joint ventures, forced technology partnerships, and then scale. Biggest weapon with China is scaling up. They've scaled, so already the OEMs have to come to China for business, and then they arm twisted these OEMs and got much of the technology, and now they are almost as good as any developed world at this point. So you can also see that what they have done, the CSSC, the Chinese Shipbuilding Group, it is a dual purpose thing. It's a civilian military both. They can absorb any kind of loss. If some ship is defective, fine, they'll take it. That is how they backed up their industries and brought the up their shipbuilding industry to world class standards. Also, wage premiums to retain talent, massive R&Ds. That is how they could do it. Large scale, assured domestic demand plus state-backed risk absorption enables rapid catch-up. So, but this requires authoritarian coordination mechanisms, which is very difficult in democratic setup. Then you see these are some of the slides which I would like to skip, but I would like to bring to your note. With all these measures, some where you will you will go against your own friends. So Korean and Japanese were also at loggerheads because somebody was compensating their local native business and causing loss to the other person. So Japanese lost a lot of the LNG shipbuilding activity because of the way Koreans have backed up their industry. And Japan ended up knocking the doors of all the forums, including but the dispute remains as of today. And the SEA, which is the European Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering Association, they back up Japanese claim that they are true. But they haven't gone anything. Korea did not back up. It is still following what it is to do to protect their industry. Because of the multiplier effects, they are able to enrich their economy because one ship, earlier dignitaries have suggested 7x multiplication of the job creation and earning potential. So their overall economy is growing, even if they spend too much of money on shipbuilding. So we can learn a lot from how Japan, China, Korea have come up in their indigenous shipbuilding from these other slides. I would skip these particular things, dispute and all. You can learn from my presentation. I will post it on the open forum. Next slide. So I even brought out certain particular distinctions, what India should do adopting because we stand at a point where we have lessons from Japan, Korea, and China. So it is like open book test for us. For them, it was a traditional written theory exam. So we will have to do well in the open book exam by copying their particular thing, because in shipbuilding, the first thing that everybody will tell, copy the design and you have it. Unfortunately, this is not told in academics, but it's something related to ethics. But this is how people have come up the ladder. Second slide. Next. So I have put various points actually what it has to do. Next slide. Practical guidance. Next slide. So in India, what can be done to adopt? So I just gave a model. What government of India should look beyond those numbers which they are giving as support packages, and the think they should actually include the case studies from Japan, China, Korea, how they have come up and how they have motivated their population to take up actually the shipbuilding and the production engineering jobs with pride and passion. And also because see in India we have a secondary layer treatment compared to the IT. That should go. Otherwise, it's very difficult to drive the young crowd towards these manufacturing jobs. Next. Cluster development, the unique challenge we have, democratic constraints, limit state-directed approach, so must rely on incentive structure, procurement reforms, public-private partnerships and all. I've included more of the things which I'm not presenting it. Why? Because when you read it, it becomes much more clear than what I present in the limited time. This is the multi-pronged approach that we should do. Not one. All the people have given pillars. Actually, I use the same concept of how to make this Atmanirbhar. My pillars are different from what the pillars which are stated by PIB or somewhere else. What I did: policy reforms, financial mechanism, technical capability, vendor development, demand creation. Most important is the skills and the culture. If this is missing, the loop breaks, and we will not achieve what is desired. All the six pillars must advance simultaneously. Piecemeal implementation will fail. The next slide, immediate actions I have put. Keep going. So, what to be done in the next course of actions? I have brought in even few places. Our cadets are making a presentation, so I will leave topics actually so that they can cover it. Otherwise, I will read out half of their content. Then next. The financing model, I gave a conclusion that's similar to Korea's technological development insurance. The China's state bank support. We should enable our MSCs to compete without bankruptcy risk on the first projects, essential for breaking the entry barriers. This is where the biggest value addition to Atmanirbharta can lie. But however, this particular thing is missing in our policy. So we should convey to the right forum. The next thing, we should put not in India. There is a particular thing what we do. The research initiatives and all, we bring in institutions and we call it a development cluster. I'm telling you, I should not say before our director, sir, because he'll catch me later on. But institutions have their own issues, they have their own bureaucracy and all. It is better to bring out teams of individual people from one place, because they have the same mind, they can work together. Institutions, one institution doesn't see eye to eye with the other institution. And when you make a cluster with combining two or three institutions, there will be barriers. It will impede our timeline to Atmanirbharta. We should bring catch hold of the individuals. One organization, this fellow is there, right fellow to work with. The other organization, build up a team and then move ahead. Finish the job. Institutions have that, what do you say, inertia. Then next, I just talked about the South Korea's Goj Island, so where there are a lot of clusters. I request everybody to have a look at these places actually. So what we can do is that we should have one player like Navy to anchor the customer and beyond. So Indian Navy should not penalize the shipyards, in my view, that if some performance issues are there, because it is both should go hand in hand. It is not like customer and the client. That particular view has to be broken. If there is a performance issue, yes, fine, we will resolve it. Both of them work together, solve it instead of squabbling or putting damages and all. I think shipyards are also worried about such clauses. And that is how it should be. And government should support Indian Navy, because, okay, fine, this investment has some issues, fine, we will build another ship. The support should come through this channel. That would be much more meaningful than simply putting figures somewhere else. Then the critical success factor, assured long-term demand, is the first thing. So private sector investment in manufacturing and R&D. Current short-term project-based R&Ds, this short-term R&D should not be given. They should be given for a long-term objective, because short-term R&D, after the project is finished, everything disappears. There should be a continuity in the way the R&D projects are given. Okay, I gave this R&D to, say, IIT Kharagpur today. Tomorrow I will do this one. Then I give one more project to IMU, and I will see where it goes. Then I will ask both of them to communicate and do something which translates to a product. That approach is not there. And also I told you that institutional barriers are also there in such a kind of project funding. Apprenticeship is the main thing. The stipend to the people who work there, we should follow a German dual education system, that you study up to some part, go back to the industry, finish some years, and then come back and earn the higher qualification. I think that is the right way for education, rather than going. And now, because with AI coming, a lot of white collar jobs are going to collapse. So I think this system is a good prospective in that regard. The previous slide. Previous. Okay, fine. Next, next. Next, 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 next. This is the underlining thing. The biggest risk is the policy inconsistency across political cycles. Indigenization requires good 22-year commitment transcending individual government. So whether whichever government comes into the force, we should make that the initiatives last. It's a very, very important thing. Beyond shipyards, I just noted how the PQC and all should be developed, how the tender specification should be developed. Some guidance, what I learned from MSME's concerns. I have put it. Then next, equipment manufacturers, policymakers. Next, then what people should do, those people in shipyard, if people in academia should do, how do they benefit actually Atmanirbharta in shipping? Then what if equipment manufacturers, aspiring entrepreneurs, then indigenization will not happen with through policy alone, requires thousands of engineers making daily decisions to support, develop, improve indigenous capabilities. This is the bottom line. And the next thing, pragmatic, incremental, quality focused indigenization will achieve strategic autonomy. That is it that I have Atmanirbhar Bharat in marine equipment, built, not just assemble in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ishwar. While we were talking about a lot of aspirational things, I think what Professor Ishwar has done is they play the devil's advocates and bring out the bottlenecks and the roadblocks that can come, which we all should be very conscious of. May I request Mr. Parimal Bhattacharya, yeah, to present the first. Okay. Thank you, Professor Ishwar. We are now fortunate to have two cadets, Cadet Kush Rana and Rana. They will present a paper on indigenization of main propulsion engines. Please give this to young engineers a very big hand. Thank you.
Good evening, respected member of the Institute of Naval Architecture, distinguished guests, and the cadets. Today, we stand before you to discuss the critical missing heartbeat of India's Atmanirbharta, the indigenous marine engine. If India aspires to be the Atmanirbhar in shipbuilding, then the soul of the ship, it's the propulsion system, must be our own. Without it, the body exists, but it cannot move by its own will. Today, India is proudly building the body of the ship, the hull, the structure. But the heart of the ship, the marine engine, still beats from the foreign soils. Next slide. Our issue brief is not just a presentation, it's a published research work titled by the Why Atmanirbharta in the India's Shipbuilding Requires Indigenous Marine Engine, featured as the issue number 824 in the Observer Research Foundation, or ORF, August 2025 edition. The Observer Research Foundation is India's leading public policy think tank influencing national strategy and policy making. Having the brief published there signifies one thing: this is not just a technical gap, it's a national strategic priority. Next slide. Our work is co-authored by Sri Ashutosh Kashyap sir, Sri Harsina sir, and myself, Kate Kushrana, and my junior, Priyanshu Rana. Next slide. Now, to understand why indigenous marine engine matter, we must first examine the current maritime landscape of India. Next slide. India's maritime ambition are bold and visionary. Massive investment Maritime India Vision 2030 target port capacity of 3,000 million metric tons per annum. Maritime Amrit Kal Vision 2047 aims for 80 lakh crore sectorial investment. Economic growth, this sector alone is projected to generate 1.5 crore new jobs by 2047. The green transition leadership, VO Chitambara Port in Tuticorin pioneered India's first green hydrogen port operation project. Shipbuilding progress, Kochi Shipyard recently launched 3 advanced vessels simultaneously. Global recognition, France-based company CMA CGM placed their first ever vessel construction order in India. This shows something important. The world is beginning to trust India, but for India to trust itself, we need our own engines. Next slide. The Indian shipbuilding industry has shown 7.8% CAGR from 2018 to 2023. We have 39 registered shipyards, including CSL, MDL, and GRSC. We have built major indigenous warships like INS Vikrant, India's first indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Kamrota, and INS Surat, India's first AI-enabled warship. Yet there is a critical contradiction. We build the ship, the weapon, the navigation system, but we import the engines. Our annual shipbuilding output is 30,000 GT. The ambition is 5 lakh GT. We cannot achieve that with the foreign propulsion technology. Now consider the scale. A marine engine is not just an automobile engine. An average slow-speed marine engine stands at 18 feet high and operate continuously for hours. It demands engineering, metallurgy, fuel science, emission control, and endurance altogether. This is not a component. This is a heartbeat of the ship. Today, over 90% of the marine engine in India are imported. Kochi Shipyard alone spent 450 crore on imported engine in year 2022 to 2023. This creates capital outflow, technology dependency, customization limitation, national security vulnerabilities. In strategy defense platform, propulsion independence means freedom of movement. Without it, we are only as strong as our own suppliers allowed us to be. Developing indigenous engine ensures economical independency, strategy, autonomy, supply chain resilience, national security, fleet modernization capability. This is not merely engineering, this is sovereignty. If India wants to be a leading maritime nation, indigenous marine engines are non-negotiable. They are the foundation of self-reliant maritime future. Here you can see the picture that marine engine is important in the whole maritime sector. Here is the marine engine as shown. This is the picture which is showing that it's connected to everything which we can see in the maritime sector. Next slide. This graph shows that the India's current output is far below the global competitiveness. To reach the top 10 shipbuilding nations, indigenous propulsion is essential. India's current annual shipbuilding production stand at 30,000 gross tonnage, the significant below critical scale threshold of 1 lakh GT. Needed to make the industry global competitive to position itself among the top 10 shipbuilding nation by 2030. The country has a set ambition production of 5 lakh GT annually. For every 1 billion investment in shipbuilding, 600 to 800 direct jobs are created. But if we localize the engine manufacturing ecosystem, it can create over 2.5 million jobs across the metallurgy, machining, electronics, and maintenance sector. India's naval shipbuilding projects worth 3 trillions are already generating 8.4 lakh jobs. Imagine the impact if the engines were also made in India. The economy and the employment multiplier effect increase dramatically. My point is simple: control the engine, you control the ship. Control the ship, you control the maritime sector and the trade power of India. India's journey teaches us this. ISRO has succeed because we built the engine ourselves. HAL struggled due to the dependency. Indian Railway became a global exporter only after the indigenous manufacturing. Our maritime sector is now at the same crossroad. The challenge is not capability, it's the coordination. We need the metallurgical excellence, R&D continuity, and national propulsion testbed, and the long-term mission-driven leadership. Now Priyanshu will take over the presentation from now.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'm very grateful to our director, sir, and KK Palit, sir, for giving us this opportunity to share this stage with such great peoples. Global best practices. When we look at Japan, South Korea, and China, we see that maritime power is built on engine power. Japan leads ammonia fuel engines, South Korea leads smart shipyards, and China controls over 50% of global shipbuilding because it controls propulsion. This is not industrial growth, this is strategic dominance. Now, countries with two stroke IP. Only a few nations hold intellectual property for two stroke marine propulsion. MAN BMW Germany and WinGD China. To depend on others for propulsion is to depend on others for control of our own ships. Our roadmap is clear. Build National Engine Development Authority. Establish marine propulsion research and development centers. Adopt phased manufacturing and mandate indigenous content increase. Secure long-term naval and commercial orders. Now, this is not just a manufacturing. This is building a national capability. The call stands for to every marine engineer in this hall. This is our responsibility. This is our generation's mission. We are not asking for a conclusion because this journey has no finishing line. This is a national movement which will start. We are all born with a divine fire inside us. Our effort must give wings to this fire and fill the world with the glow of its goodness. Now, the question is not whether we can. The question is, are we prepared to commit? To achieve this, what first we must fix? First is leadership fragmentation. The first is leadership fragmentation. Second stands the short-term projects for this mission. Weak industry academia collaboration and lack of test beds and precision supply chain. These are not barriers, rather these are tasks. Now, India already has the institutions, the engineers, and the talent. What we need now is alignment, a unified propulsion ecosystem. India stands at the edge of a maritime renaissance. This is not a challenge, this is an opportunity. Let us build not just ships, let us build the engines that carry India's pride across the sea. From years in the name of shipbuilding, we have been building skeletons without hearts, and the engines, which are the hearts, we have been relying on the foreign land. Let's change it and let's build the engines that carry India's maritime pride and maritime heritage across the seas. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So now we are coming to the end of the seminar. We can now move to the Q&A, or we can have the panel discussion and okay. So I have on behalf of the Institution of Naval Architects, I have the honor to present. Shall we conjoin the panel discussion along with the Q&A? May I request some of the cadets to come forward? Just we'll rotate the sofas and the VIPs on stage can then we can start the panel discussions and questions and all can also be thrown to the panel. We will just rotate it here so that the panelists now face the audience. May I request the audience to be seated and the mics, just the handheld mics can be given to the panelists. Is there any handheld mics? Huh? The Can we have the president, Mr. Ronojit Rai, can you please also join the panel? Please join the panel, Mr. Ronojit Rai. Please join the panel. So we have a very eminent list of the panel. So may I request the Director IMU to start the panel discussion and set the tone of this.
Okay. Sir, you can please join us. I think the choice of paper selection today and the way the contents were presented, I must kudos to each and every presenter in the first place. Please acknowledge, join me in acknowledging the efforts of each and every presenter in highlighting very cogent and very relevant points as far as the indigenous and Atmanirbharta in shipbuilding is concerned. And let me tell you, with my experience of indigenization in the Indian Navy, right from the basic electrical cables to power systems, communication systems, to navigation systems, to weapon systems, whatever has been mentioned here, whatever has been pointed out here, we have gone through these processes. And I mentioned, I remember mentioning this even during the last conference, that there is a need for hand-holding the indigenous developers. Indigenous developer needs to be assured that the effort that he is going to put in for developing a product would be accepted and it is going to be a long-term investment.
he is going to get a return of investment at the end of the process. It is not an easy thing. And there was an example quoted about Bharat Electronics. We know the kind of efforts which we have put in with Bharat Electronics to develop basic communication systems, to systems which were based on Ethernet, on ATM modules, ATM to gigabit Ethernet. We have all graduated, but it needed both a soft hand and a hard push. They knew that yes, Navy is going to ultimately take their product. They faced the flak for not measuring up to our requirements at various stages. But eventually, with a little bit of support from the Indian Navy, they did develop their product. And today, each and every ship that comes out for the Indian Navy, whether it is made in India or even the one which is made in abroad, our systems go there, get installed, and the ship comes back. So that is the success story for indigenous systems. And I'm sure we can do this for even the commercial shipping. It just needs a little bit of more focused attention. The Ministry of Defense had made it very clear that we are going to go for Atmanirbhar way back in the 1960s. That's when GRS was brought out. INS Ajay was the first ship which was made by GRSC, and those were the days when we took on that no, we are going to make our own ships. Thereafter MDL, HSL, CSL to recently when she made Vikrant. These are only success stories which we have accumulated one on top of the other. These are success stories which have been built over a period of time, and these can easily be emulated. These are not rocket science efforts. That's all that I want to say. I now request anybody else. Sir.
First and foremost, let me thank the Institution of Naval Architects as well as IMU, since we are in the IMU Center, for affording me this opportunity to come and participate in this seminar. I must very humbly mention that I am no shipbuilding expert. All my life I have been a shipping person, though as Palit Sahab in the brief introduction mentioned, I was on the L&T Shipbuilding Board for about 5 years. And of course, throughout the shipping career, one had to deal with shipbuilding and, even with the shipbuilding. I've had the pleasure of visiting Japan. I think the mic is creating some problem. So as I was saying, I have had the pleasure and privilege of visiting Japanese, South Korean, Chinese, all those years, many of them. But nevertheless, and I have also led Indian delegation in ASBA, as the Asian Shipbuilding Association. After all, Asian shipbuilding today represents 95% of the world shipbuilding. So, but despite all that, as I said, I am no shipbuilding expert, but of course, just like in any other sector, if India, today in any case, India is the fourth largest economy, and within just about a couple of years, I'm sure will be the third largest economy. And if things, reforms, and whatever the progress is happening, if it continues in the same venom, then I am sure that by the 2047, when our honorable Prime Minister aspires that the country must become a developed country, we will be possibly the second largest economy. And by turn of the century, we should become the largest economy in the world. After all, if you go back just barely 200 years, you will see a scenario where Indian GDP was more than 20% of the world GDP, and India was number one country economically in the world for a millennium, not for decades, not for centuries, but India was the number one economy in the world for a millennium. So there is no reason why we should not aspire to once again regain that spot and become. And for that, maritime is very important. And of course, shipbuilding, as it has been mentioned throughout the presentation, shipbuilding is a mother industry for heavy engineering. And shipbuilding has possibly the maximum, absolutely the maximum multiplier effect amongst any industries that you can think of. So definitely it is very, very important. Just about 30 years back, possibly, you know, uh, Hyundai was founded, I think, in March 1972. Cochin Shipyard was founded in April 1972. Their level of production was almost the same. And where is Hyundai today? And where, unfortunately, Cochin Shipyard is doing very well, but still, compared to Hyundai, it's absolutely nothing. So, and when, as mentioned, China builds today 37 or whatever million GT per year. South Korea builds about 17. Japan builds 11, and I mean, as it was shown, we have some 0.06% of world shipbuilding tonnage today. So we must become Atmanirbhar. This is absolutely imperative. It is not a matter of choice or option. We have to do it if India has to become number 2, number 1 economy going forward. And all the measures which are being taken by the government, they are absolutely in tune with that. Of course, Professor Ishwar mentioned some very, very valid, practical, suggestions. So along with the numbers, as he says, there are things which needs to be done in addition to numbers. So I'm sure if all that is done, then definitely, India can aspire to become that within the top 10 by 2030 and top 5 within 2047, which is the vision of the country. So I think that's about it. Panel discussion, of course, I will give the mic to the other panelists, but also it is also the question and answer. So if there are any questions, I am a commercial shipping man. So if you think anything to do with commercial shipping, you can ask me. I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. Thank you very much.
Well, I would not add to the. I'll, to begin with, I must say that I am one of the, or in this uh, seminar, the oldest shipbuilder, and oldest shipbuilder and oldest naval architect at the age of 90. So I had a long innings in shipbuilding as a professor at IIT Madras, as chief surveyor in DG Shipping, and chief of shipbuilding in GRSC. Besides the distinctions, I'm pleased to be invited by you, very pleased. Well, I have been also writing books. I have written 10 books, out of which 3 pertains to ships and others pertains to environment and renewable energy. This is my personal account, but as far as the Atmanirbhar seminar content, what has been presented by various presenters are very of high quality. I did not add more knowledge. I would want ships to be built not only deliberating about shipbuilding, but building ships. For that, I would also mention to you that we have in India 2-3 industries where we are leading manufacturers in India. Automobile industry, we are doing very well. Of late, we are doing in electronics industry. This is the live examples. It's not mentioned in any of these talks at Atmanirbhar. Well, if you do not go to manufacturing, the chemical industry, pharmacy, we are the world's one of the leaders. So we have a background to achieving excellence. So we hope, as we all panelists and the authors before said, that by 2030 and 2047 Amrit Kal, we will achieve the milestone that our Prime Minister has elaborated and presented to the nation. And all papers have not done that. Who are the leading shipbuilding nations? We should also learn from them and work in collaboration with them. They have they have collaborated the others, and we can also free to collaborate with these leading nations. Capital and finance is a problem, not always a problem, because USA has all the money, more than the China, but China is the leading shipbuilding nations. So finance should not be an hindrance for India. Education field in marine engineering, naval architectures, and other shipping personnel of high expertise. We have already achieved quite a high level of excellence. Now the last phase of manufacturing, we hope will succeed, and I'm sure we all agree and feel heartened. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good evening all. Very nice presentations we had in the afternoon today. And this is the second seminar in Calcutta in the last 9 months, and very well attended. I'll be very brief. See, shipbuilding, ship design and shipping is more of an emotion. It is a lot of hard work, it is a lot of passion and consistency that is required to tide over long cycles. Having said that, we have many good shipbuilders in this country. At one point, we had a lot of private sector shipyards, we had government sector shipyards. We had from the 2014s, and since then we are doing a lot of defense shipbuilding, and we have come a long way in defense shipbuilding, as we have seen from the presentations of GRSE. Now we are trying to replicate the same in the commercial shipbuilding. So when we look at the numbers and the GT that we want to add by 2047, we should not only look at building ships for the country, we should also look at building ships for the world. And towards that, in addition to whatever we are talking about self-reliance, we also should look at creating efficiency in terms of global competitiveness, which should be powered by skills, technology, and trust that we need to do. Towards this, I'm from a classification background, though I was a shipbuilder before. What I can tell is classification can bring in compliances to quality standards, compliances to the rules and regulations. We can handhold when it comes to innovations. We're now looking at the new technologies that are coming in thanks to the environment regulations. We're also looking, at the moment we're talking of hydrogen, methanol, ammonia and things like that. Additionally, now we are also looking at small, towards which what we can do is we can handhold in the initial phases. We can take you through, we can guide you to ensure compliance to safety standards, etc. Classification per se, including the type approval, what we are talking about, gives you that trust, brings you that belief in the system that these things meet the quality standards. Additionally, we can also handle skill development, training, those aspects that are there. Similarly, we're talking about ancillary industries. We are there. We will support ancillary industries for whatever that is required. In fact, we have worked with the Government of India to set up a portal to collect all the data that is there in the country, the manufacturers who are there in the country, which is actually already there on the DG Shipping portal, which I think they are further reviving it with KPMG or Ernst & Young that is being done. I think, sir, pass it on to you. Thank you.
Hello. I will talk something. I will talk something from my own experience. I will give you two experiences. I was in Scotland on behalf of Shipping Corporation of India for building of two ships which were named Jhansi Ki Rani and Kasturba. Shipping Corporation decided that ships are ladies. That is why we gave them name called Jhansi Ki Rani and Kasturba. Shipping Corporation, while placing the order on Scotland shipyard, they decided that the third ship will be built at Kochi shipyard. I'm not trying to make any laughing structure for Kochi shipyard, but I want to tell something. I came back from Scotland after delivery of the two ships, Jhansi Ki Rani and Kasturba. The Kochi shipyard had just laid the keel. And then they took almost 5 to 6 years to build one ship. And the name of that ship is Rani Padmini. That is the first ship Kochi for Shipping Corporation of India. Now, for Atmanirbhar Bharat, I again want to talk about Kochi shipyard. Shipyard took more than 5-6 years to build one ship. Now Kochi shipyard has advanced so much that now they are building all types of hybrid ships, hybrid ferry boats, and as a matter of fact, they have also built INS Virat and INS Vikrant for Indian Navy. So that shows that we are heading towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now another example I will again give from my own experience. Long time back when I was working in Shipping Corporation, all our drawings were being classed by ABS, Lloyds, etc. But because they had to go to IRS for the certification, they had to, what they did is only they put a stamp that they have seen the drawings. But again, when I was working in India Steamship Company, I had placed order for, not I, this company had placed order for 4 Aframax tankers. The chairman that time was Captain Anand. I told him that I will not, because when I was working in a government company, I had to go to IRS. But I told him that I will build the ships in Korea and I will give the tax for tax haven country. So Captain Anand do that. We will help you. And again, I am talking you from the Atmanirbhar Bharat. They sent one IRS naval architect and one IRS engineer. They were placed in Korea in Hyundai shipyard. And believe you not, for every inspection, those 2 surveyors went. Probably I did not go, but they had gone, they had found out every mistake, both from engineering as well as from the ship's hull. And that is again, I would say that is Atmanirbhar Bharat. And we are progressing in that direction. Thank you.
Mr. Kamal Pali, as my colleague has already mentioned, the Calcutta, the leadership of marine profession is progressing very fast. A lot of this credit to him. And in token of his leadership, I present a book of mine, Renewable Energy, to Mr. Kamal Palit.
On behalf of INA Kolkata chapter, I thank you all that you have come for this seminar and made it a success. I must say the seminar maximum effort was given by Mr. Kamal Palit, my Palitda, and we have all helped him wherever required, whenever required. With keeping all our work at side, we have helped him to make the seminar a success in 9 months' time. Thank you very much, I must say.
Any questions from that? Right, sir. Sorry, I have to make it. I can understand, sir. Should we wind up, sir? Boys and cadets, please settle. Just a minute.